I'm every nightmare you've ever had. I'm your worst dream come true. I'm everything you were ever afraid.
Jason is my son, and today is his
You could have dinner with us. My brother makes good head cheese. Candyman, I get cheese. Candyman, Candyman. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Hello and welcome to the final podcast, the last podcast you will ever listen to. We are the creators of the Spooky Pit, the innovators of the Passion Bump, and we are taking you down the darkest rabbit holes of all things horror.
Calling all spooky bitches. We review horror movies and fuck 'em with comedy. We are your final bros, Brian Hopwood LaGrasta and Shane Smith. And we are joined today by our Scream Queen, Jen, the producer, and in studio, one of our very best friends, Daniel Cancellieri, aka Dale. It's good to have you on, Dale.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a real pleasure being here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And I'm happy to say that you were one of the first fans of our podcast. So I really appreciate that support.
I've listened to every episode.
I know. And we always say, like, we always look for people to give us recommendations to come on this show. And we do get a few. You were the very first person to do that. So I'm very happy to have you recommend the movie we're doing today, which is It, the 1990 version that was aired on, obviously, on ABC as a 2-episode miniseries combined into like one whole movie.
One mega 3-hour and 7-minute movie.
Extravaganza.
It's my favorite horror movie, and I don't really watch that many horror movies, so I figured, if I was to come on this show one day, this would definitely be the movie I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we're really excited. This movie, as a kid, because I remember this movie came out a year before I was even born, but it was one of the earliest horror movies I've ever watched. So like, it's something I always go back to, and it's got like a special place, in my horror, I guess, mind. Like I know the new one just came out, and the new one's probably a better adaptation to the book, in all honesty. But this one was super creepy as a kid. I was afraid of sewers for like the longest time.
It was really good, honestly. Very good movie. I love it. Tim Curry definitely scared me when I was younger watching this film.
Well, yeah, I think Tim Curry kind of like nailed the role out of the park in terms of like the creepy pedophile clown, because people are just generally afraid of clowns in general. I know Jen wants to touch on like the time period that this movie was inspired on, so I'll let Jen handle that because she knows more than anybody on that.
I really did a deep dive. This movie seriously cemented my fear of clowns, and I feel like I've mentioned it on a previous episode. I actually have no idea if I did, because I do try and put true crime to this, but I live in the area that Megan Conca was kidnapped when I was real young. Her story is that like she was kidnapped, raped, and murdered by pedophiles that lived in the area. So that was a big thing in my area. But I want to get into the two biggest inspirations for the clown. Stephen King probably started writing this around the time that everyone's favorite killer clown, John Wayne Gacy, was arrested. So that was definitely a big inspiration for the whole killer clown, with Gacy dressing up and befriending young boys, because his type, I guess we could say, was young boys, even though it doesn't really care as long as it's a child. But the other inspiration for it, Stephen King based it off of Ronald McDonald as a model for Pennywise's appearance, because he wanted to think, what was the thing that kids trusted in? Ronald McDonald was like a happy figure, a figure that kids put a lot of trust into. They loved him. So he kind of wanted, a happy meal.
I'll be honest, I never trusted that clown. He always looked like he was up to something shady with those burgers.
Modeled Pennywise after Ronald McDonald and got serious inspiration from John Wayne Gacy, our killer clown. I really did try to look up child kidnappings. There's so many from the 60s where this movie takes place into the 80s. It would be impossible to touch on all of them. So one of the big inspirations for this was the 80s stranger danger craze, when kids really started cementing, don't talk to strangers. Like, if a stranger tells you to go somewhere, run. And the whole, like, mall cops was a really big thing. Like, pedophiles and child abductors would dress up as mall cops and try and like take you away and stuff like that, because it's a figure that you're supposed to trust. So he really wanted to twist around a figure that you were supposed to trust into something that you couldn't trust. I mean, honestly, you can look up the stranger danger craze and the whole child on a milk carton thing. A lot of those were big inspirations. But yeah, Stephen King grew up when all that was going on. So he took serious inspiration from the stranger danger and child abduction of the 60s to the 80s.
From like, obviously I didn't live in the 50s, and my parents obviously were born in that generation, but they didn't like live the 50s, you know, obviously. So it's not their generation, but I always hear about like, you know, how like neighbors talk to neighbors and doors were left open and everybody was friendly. And I'm guessing serial killers kind of changed the game with that whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly child abductors, like serial killers aren't. I feel like child abduction was so much more common than a serial killer because it happened so much more regularly. I feel like it's very bold of certain predators to become serial killers, but they all start out as thieves or predators and serial rapists prior to going for murder.
I could see why like Stephen King wrote Henry Bowers into his movie then as like a cautionary tale of never to leave your door open or your children unattended, because Henry Bowers is going to carve his name into their skin.
I mean, the only thing he did not write into that was him taking like a bird out of his back pocket and biting off its neck.
It's like if you ran into Henry Bowers on the street, something was going to happen to you.
It's something bad.
Oh, yeah.
Real bad.
Like they touch on it more in the new movie, but they don't really touch on how fucked up Henry Bowers' like childhood was and how like screwed up his dad was. They say it like a couple times, but you don't see anything about Henry Bowers' life in this movie.
Yeah. So I read, just for some context, I did not read the whole book. I read half of the book and I did watch the new movies. And I actually do like how because I think he is a really important character. I like how the new movie went deeper into that plot because it's very important because it's the whole like Mike Hanlon and his dad versus the Henry Bowers and his dad's storyline because they're so big in town. I guess that small town of Derry. I think that was really important. And I know they mention it in like a little backdrop of him talking about it through dialogue.
It's a very, very brief, like your dad did this and that's it. They don't like mention anything. It's just like Henry Bowers, when he's bullying Mike, he mentions it briefly, but you don't understand what it's about, like you said. So
it's like you can assume that like he got beat at home and like abused at home by his dad. Cause you know, like there was that scene earlier on as a flashback where like, you know, he gets sent to the principal's office and like, he's like, my dad will tear my hide.
Yeah.
You know, like you could already tell from there that he gets beat at home for sure.
Yeah. There's some interesting dads in this movie.
I actually didn't have to, you know, when you're watching a movie and we find ourselves being like, where the fuck are the parents? I actually didn't really do that with this film because you saw enough, the majority of the parents, that you kind of knew what was going on at home for some of these kids. But I do find that in like comparing the original It and part one, I enjoyed more of part one that you went into more of the kids' lives because you went into like some of them, like we know how Bev was abused, we know what was kind of going on with Ben and some of them, but there were others where like who's the sick guy, Eddie. I never caught in the original how his mom had Munchausen's by proxy in the original, and they made it way more clear in part one.
Sorry.
I'm still trying to hold in my laughter from Eddie's spaghetti. I'm so sorry.
I really do like a lot of the backstories of these characters that I think they do leave out in this movie. But and then there's the whole like debate, like who is the better clown? For me, it's like a no-brainer. For me, this is like Hollywood versus actual serial killer clown. And for me, it's an easy distinction because I'm more of a raw guy.
Yeah.
I raw dog shit.
You always were a raw guy. I knew it. But no, I'm with you. Tim Curry is a better clown.
I
mean, that had a lot to do with the time period. Like at the time period, like we just said, the whole stranger danger thing, I think Tim Curry's clown was much scarier in that time. Whereas like nowadays, like with all the horror movies coming out, I actually don't think they did a bad job on Pennywise in the new one. I think it definitely fit to today's horror versus like when we were growing up. Obviously, we're going to think of Tim Curry's Pennywise because my mom and my dad always talks about don't talk to strangers, don't go anywhere with anyone, don't get in vans, like the very basic stranger danger shit. So Tim Curry really stood in my head and cemented my fear of like old guys.
No, yeah, that
are
makes
not
sense.
my grandfather.
Back in the 90s, you were scared of clowns and pedophiles, and nowadays you're scared of bad CGI. So no, it makes perfect sense. But with all that said, we got a 3-hour movie to talk about.
Oh, we do.
Let's finally jump right into the Spooky Pit.
The Losers Club battles a demon often taking the form of a clown in the 1960s who's been taking and murdering children in Derry, Maine. For 30 years, the murder stopped, but it's come back. and it's up to them to end the evil. It was released in 1990, like we mentioned, a 2-part miniseries airing on ABC. It was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, considered a horror drama. And boy, oh boy, did it have a cast. It had a good cast. It just had a lot of prominent characters because it was 3 hours and 7 minutes. I'm going to give the cast of the older characters and then the younger cast, because we know that the It story is definitely driven well by the young kids.
Yeah, both the old one and the newer movies, the quality goes down when it's through the adults.
Totally. I think the kids drive just the overall story that Stephen King wrote.
Absolutely.
Forgot this whole movie was done through flashbacks, pretty much.
Oh, there's so many flashbacks in this
The
movie.
entire movie's flashbacks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're always thinking about shit that happened to them.
Yeah. You're never actually in the time period. It's always a flashback to it.
Always.
Harry Anderson as Richie Tozier, Dennis Christopher as Eddie Kaspbrak, Richard Mazer as Stanley Uris, and Nat O'Toole as Beverly Marsh. Tim Reed as Mike Hanlon, John Ritter as Ben Hanscom, Richard Thomas as Bill Denbrough, Tim Curry, of course, as Pennywise. Now let's get to the 12-year-old boys and girls. Jonathan Brandis as Bill Denbrough.
You mean Bill, I'm going to grow an awful rat tail, Denbrough.
Amen. Brandon Crane as Ben Hanscom.
Ben, I used to be fat. Now I'm pretty hot, Hanscom.
Adam Paraziel as Eddie Kaspbrak.
Eddie, my mom's always going to be this way, Kaspbrak.
Seth Green as Richie Tozier.
Richie, my jokes ain't that good, Tozier.
Ben Heller as Stanley Uris.
Stanley, I'm barely in this movie, Uris.
Emily Perkins as Beverly Marsh.
Bev, I let the whole squad hit Marsh.
That's so bad.
Marlon Tyler as Mike Hanlon.
Mike, I keep the whole crew together through the end of time.
He's the light keeper.
He really is.
He's the light keeper.
You talk about how Stan didn't get a lot of screen time. You know that Tim Curry has about maybe 20 minutes of screen time in this entire movie, right?
But it's a memorable, 20 minutes. I feel like Stanley, besides him reciting bird names and killing himself,
it was like the Anthony Hopkins and Silence of the Lambs effect, where they scattered it so well throughout the movie. Like, you think he's always there, but you're right, Jen. He's barely, the screen time is not there.
Yeah.
But he's a presence.
Yeah. He is. The balloons are always there, though.
A lot of balloons.
A lot of balloons.
A lot of balloons in this
There's
movie.
a lot of different colored balloons. I wonder if that actually means anything.
They all
didn't find
down
anything
here.
on it.
All right, so the movie opens up. You're getting a little scrapbook of young kids, so young whippersnappers. But it's going to transition into the present time where the storms are brewing.
Yes, and there's a little girl riding her bike, singing Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Yeah, and just to let you know, that's the kind of good tunes you're going to get in an Emmy award-winning TV show, because it won for Best Music in a Miniseries because of the song.
Strictly because of this song?
I don't know, but it is actually, they did win.
Yeah, so she's then startled by some sheets.
She's not startled. She's happy to see the sheets because because Pennywise is talking to her, and she looks joyful to see him because he's a funny clown.
Fucking creepy. You see that quick flash of him in the sheets?
Yeah.
Totally scary.
Before this, though, you actually see the mom come out and pull out some laundry and say Lorianne, this is the little girl's name. Lorianne, time to come inside. It's going to rain. Because, you hear the thunder and the lightning and everything.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned from it, though, little kids love to play in the rain.
Oh, yeah.
They love it.
Very common theme.
Jump rope and rain, but they love the rain. They loved it. So there's a POV shot as the clown kind of approaches the young girl. It looks like he's about to just gulp her down, and then the scene kind of fades out.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a part where her mother's then walking outside, sees the bike wheel spinning, and then she finds obviously what the after effects of her getting.
Yeah, because she starts shouting at this point. Right?
She got the big gulp. What's the big gulp? Is it 7-Eleven?
7-Eleven got the big gulp.
And so did this young girl.
It wasn't clear to me growing up watching this. This is the only movie, by the way, I went back and paid attention and watched twice. And I still missed a few things because they didn't matter to me. So I didn't catch growing up watching this that she was torn up right there. I thought he was just taking the kids, because in some instances he just takes them, and rewatching this I was like, oh no, he tears them to shreds and leaves some of their body there. I didn't catch that until this round.
So what I think actually happened to her was what happened to Georgie with his arm getting ripped off. I think the same thing happened to her here.
Yeah.
Because she looked down and she actually saw the mom actually saw a body, and then she let out this shriek.
Yeah.
So you have to think the body was still there.
He's a very inconsistent clown. Sometimes he rips an arm off. Sometimes he takes you into his lair.
Yeah, it's one or the other. I think he either lures you in or he's just gonna kill you.
Yeah.
by
What he's
ripping your
feeling
arm
that
off.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
They actually call them Pennywise or the right arm killer.
Is that a fact?
I don't know. I don't even know if it was the right arm. It's just a bad joke.
Nah, that joke landed. So now we cut to who we're going to learn is Mike, and he's questioning some cops. He's basically asking them, like, what happened. He kind of knows already what happened here. This is also adult Mike.
Yeah, he also picks up that doll.
Yes, he does. They dismiss him, though, completely, saying, you're just the library guy. Like, get out of here.
I think it's like the influence of Pennywise taking over the cop there, being like, get away from this crime scene. You know, you're just a librarian.
Yeah, this is in the present, so this is 30 years after.
Yeah, we'll get it. Let's not touch into, like, the Pennywise, like, controlling people yet, because that's going to come later.
Yeah.
It is the focal point of the movie, but
I don't think that Pennywise was taking over the cop at that time, though, because Mike, like he said, is literally just a librarian and really shouldn't have anything to do with homicide cases.
Well, no, I think what Dale was getting at is more so that, like, they know what's going on already. The police, they're hiding it. That's why I want to get later on in the movie when Bev mentions, like, the adults see these things, but they pretend they don't happen. You know what I mean?
they're just dismissed.
Exactly, dismissing it.
We'll see later that Henry Bowers, like in the past, confessed to the killings like 30 years prior. So, and they all say that there's like a veil over their faces when they're there as adults. So I don't know if the adults actually see it. I think it's really only meant for the kids to see and the people who remember and who have experienced it. So I feel like every adult in this town has a veil over its head. And I don't think Pennywise was controlling that cop whatsoever. I think he was just like, okay, librarian, get out of the homicide case.
Yeah, I mean, like, the adults that know about it are obviously the 7 of them, and that's because of their really special bond that they have.
We'll get into it. So
We'll talk about that in slight
then
detail.
Mike finds a picture. It's a picture of Georgie. And this is when Mike starts one of many monologues for this movie, I guess.
Yeah, he does like a lot of voiceovers because he's kind of like the narrator. He is the keeper.
He's the lighthouse keeper.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure he is.
What?
I don't know. He's the lighthouse keeper. I just went along with whatever Shane said there.
Let's not go back to the lighthouse. We don't want to do that movie anymore.
Do you want to get that foghorn back?
No.
This review needs a foghorn.
The Derry foghorn.
Derry.
I don't even know if it's not even a port town, right? Like, there's no.
There's no ports.
There's no port. There's just a marsh.
That's true.
Technically, that means there's 2 marshes in this movie, I guess.
Yeah.
3 if you count the dad.
Oh, I definitely count the dad.
He counts maybe more than one.
I worry a lot.
So the next scene goes to the library that Mike works at night. And, he starts talking about writing, like in his head, he starts talking as he's writing in his journal. Finding Georgie's picture today confirmed it for me, confirmed my hunch that it's back. He's thinking about the promise that he made with his friends to come back. And he goes to call them.
Yeah, he rips up that old phone book that he stored for 30 years, and he's going to give his buddies a call.
Yes. So
because their new addresses are in the phone book from 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like he must have been keeping some good tabs on where these.
He's got good notes. Basically, now this movie is multiple flashbacks of the different kids. That's what you're getting for the next hour and a half of this movie.
Yeah, and this is not true to the book, but I think they did it to condense the movie into a 2-part special, or else it'll be a little longer. I mean, the first movie does it. That starts with the kids, and then they do the adults in the second. But
honestly, I like for the time period that this movie was released in the 90s. I think that was one of the smartest decisions for this movie, doing it in flashbacks.
I totally agree. I think they blended it really well. There was a good flow to it. Like there was not like I was staggered or anything. I was like excited to see them all, and they were like equal in length and like interesting.
No, I completely agree.
This movie does an amazing job with the storytelling, character development, showing actually what happened to everybody to make them so fearful and so scared of this clown.
Yeah, I would say that this is such a good story is what I'm going to leave it at. This is a brilliant story. This is really creative.
It is. It definitely is.
We got to keep in mind it was like made for TV, so it was like a mini series.
Yeah.
So it wasn't made consecutively as a movie, or maybe they would have done a few things different. So just keeping in mind that it was made as a mini TV series, I think definitely helps with how we viewed the character development and everything throughout the movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't know it was 3 hours until I just rewatched it again. So I've spent 6 hours on this movie this week, but this is actually a movie I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. TV and movies are completely different. So that is something good to keep in mind.
Yes. So We cut to our first kid, and this is Bill. And Bill is, I believe, he's typing up one of his books on a computer.
Yeah, he's a horror author. Jen, you got something?
Yeah, I do. I remember reading this and I was like, how did I not catch that? Bill is the author of a horror movie or a horror novel that they're, I guess, making into a movie. It's titled The Glowing, and it's a reference to Stephen King's The Shining.
That's actually great.
You know, that's actually because you do see it later on when he actually visits Derry. You see
all
that.
his books are.
I wrote down the names of all the books in that lineup.
Yes, we'll get to that.
That's great. So that's his book in the hotel. What was the person checking them in?
The
concierge.
No, I always call her the
Yeah.
bitchy librarian
Sure. She's reading the book.
because I've never been to a library and had a friendly encounter with the front desk people. I really haven't. I don't know if you guys have. I haven't.
The town we live in has some of the angriest librarians I've ever seen. I feel like I'm walking into a DMV.
Yeah.
I'm dead. That's so funny.
But now we're going to cut to a throwback for the podcast, Bill's wife, who is
Hello.
I
From
knew
Blackbird.
it.
Yeah, she's back.
sadly does not say hello in this movie.
No, I was waiting
Doesn't
for
she?
it. Just give me one. Just give me one phone call.
She did make a phone call.
The phone.
Oh, that's right.
The phone rings in this scene, and I'm like, please be the one to answer it, please. But Bill sadly picks
Son
up.
of a bitch. Let her answer the damn phone.
So
I was so excited. I was waiting for you guys to tell me. I was like, I'll let them tell me if it's her.
Yeah.
It is. Bill picks up the phone, and of course, it's Mike Hamlin from. Now, the town name, is it Derry or Derry?
Derry.
Derry. It is Derry.
Derry. Derry.
That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to have another Sister Beach on my hands here.
Beige. Shane, I'm making a t-shirt that says Shane fears the beige.
Oh my God.
It's my idea.
Now Bill is talking to Mike, and this is when we start our first flashback.
We do start a flashback here, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, his jaw drops, and then we enter a flashback of the kids. They kind of like they're making a pact.
It's Bill saying, "Swear to me that if it comes back, like we'll come back and fight this thing."
Yeah, and they're all hands are in. They're all on board.
Yes, and
every single one. They're coming back, all of them.
Yep,
alive and well.
Yep,
At least they
every
thought
single
so.
one. There's no one dead. We cut back to present, and then Mike is telling Bill it's back.
When you saw Bill's face when he walks back at the dinner table, it's like he literally just saw a ghost.
Yeah, he starts stuttering again.
Yeah. So what we're going to learn through this movie, I guess it's a good place to talk about it, is that all the kids that fought the 7 of them, once they leave Derry, don't remember anything. They don't really remember what happened in their childhood or like the clown itself. They have like vague fragments, I guess you would say, of it, but they don't remember like the main points of their childhood.
Bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you ever get punched in the dick like really hard and you get like a new lease on life.
Can't say
all
I
of
have.
All of these people, they got a new lease on life and they remembered all their past when they got that. Well, not everything, but they remembered some things from that Mike Hanlon telephone call.
It like instantly, like some of it comes back, and you'll learn as they go to Derry, it like kind of just floods on them, like all these thoughts. He walks away from his wife, and this is where we go into our like flashback of Georgie. Bill is laying in bed, and Georgie wants to play with Bill. But Bill does not want to get out of bed because he's a lazy bum.
He's also sick.
It sounds like an excuse to not play with your brother to me.
I mean, just laying in bed all day. Like that sounds like the least fun thing to do.
Sometimes you need one of those days.
No, I agree.
In the background, the mom, I believe, is playing the song Für Elise by Beethoven on the piano.
Good for her. I've never played the piano, so I have no input.
Very ominous.
No, it comes into play later in the movie.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It comes into play later. That's why I brought it up.
No, I know. I just have no personal relationship with the piano. But what I do have a relationship with is boats and waxing them up. And George needs to go wax it up because Bill's too sick to go downstairs.
Yes. So we will also mention this boat is a newspaper boat. Right? That's what it looks like it's made out of. And Georgie has to go into the basement to get that wax.
It's actually called paraffin.
It is. He calls it paraffin in the one scene, and then he never refers to it as paraffin for the rest of the movie.
Can we call it wax?
We can call
it's
it
easier
wax.
word to say.
He doesn't even say paraffin on the on the wax. Like I guess that's just another word for it.
Yeah, because I watched this movie with the subtitles, and reading it, he actually says the word paraffin.
Oh, I know he does. Yeah, I heard it too, very clearly. I just didn't know what it was. It's probably like maybe an old school brand or like
like when I first heard him say it, I'm like, what the hell is paraffin?
Yeah.
We're not talking about paraffin. We're talking about Georgie going into the basement to get some wax. And he's a little scared of the basement.
Yeah, he does a quick, like a quick snatch.
I like that because as a kid, if I had a basement, I'd be kind of scared of it. You don't know what's down in the basement.
I was scared of my basement.
Especially when he goes to flicker the light switch, it doesn't turn on, it's dark. Of course, every kid is scared to go into a dark basement.
Yeah, my basement was really dark, especially, when was it, 97 when Hurricane Floyd hit? I was terrified to go down there.
Yeah, it was all the water.
I actually don't even know what year that was, but yeah.
It was somewhere in the 90s. What I can tell you is, though, Georgie goes back to Bill. They wax up that boat real good, and Georgie takes it outside. Once again, like I said earlier, play in the rain, because that's what kids did back then.
He is wearing his signature Ralph Lauren yellow poncho.
Is it Ralph Lauren?
No, it's just a fucking yellow poncho.
The boat is floating. It sadly goes down into the sewer, and Georgie's looking in the sewer, and what does he find in the sewer?
Hiya, Georgie.
Yeah, it's a clown.
It's a clown.
And it's not just any clown.
This was like many nights not slept for me, because if you're like an 8-year-old kid and this is your first horror movie that you're watching, or at least one of them, and you see a clown in the sewer, you're never going to go near a sewer again, especially because I had one around the block from my house, the same kind of style. You're not going to want to see a clown anymore for a while. And you're never going to want to make a paper sailboat ever again. So, or wear the yellow poncho from Ralph Lauren.
Yeah. So this clown introduces himself as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. And we learn he has a really big floating fetish. He actually gets off to the idea of things floating.
That's true. He also gets off on telling kids to come down to where things do float.
Oh, yes, Georgie. They float.
Dude,
they all float.
Dude, he's like getting some serious like serial killer pleasure out of talking to this kid.
And this is like a primo example of what Jen brought up before with the stranger danger.
Yes.
Georgie does bring up saying, my dad told me not to speak to strangers.
Yeah, see, but his dad said don't speak to strangers. His dad didn't say talk to sewer clowns.
But then in this scene, you'll notice that he and this is probably like something that strangers tried to do when they were kidnapping kids, or when they probably still do, is you have to gain their trust. So he's like, oh, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. And he's like, oh, my name is Pennywise and your name is Georgie. There, we're not strangers anymore. And to like a small child, that can kind of make sense. It's like, oh, we're introducing each other. Now we know each other. He's kind of like gaining their trust in order to just get what he wants.
It's like the classic, I got candy in my van. But it's in my van. You got to come in there to get it.
Yeah, but except in this case, he's like, I got cotton candy and rides in the sewer, and you got to come down to get it.
You going down into that sewer for some cotton candy?
To be honest with you, I'd fucking jump off a building for some cotton candy.
Maybe when I was younger, I definitely wouldn't now. It hurts too much to eat because I'm old.
I love cotton candy.
Me too.
Sadly, though, this clown is a murderer, and Georgie reaches to get his boat, and the clown rips off Georgie's arm. And from that, we cut to Bill at Georgie's funeral.
It's a kind of a quick scene, but you do see a bunch of Bill's friends. He's shown there with like a group of his friends that you'll get introduced to later. And then I think it's going to shift to Bill looking at a photo album where he sees Georgie. And in the photo album, Georgie winks at him.
Yes. Bill then throws the photo album, which you would, because that's terrifying. And the photo album starts flipping pictures and then bleeding.
Yeah, I hate it when my scrapbooks bleed. I never liked that. I never understood it either.
No, the parents are going to run in and they're going to pick up the bloody photo album. They don't see the blood. They don't know it's there. Now, Bill sees all of this. He sees like the blood get on their hands and all that, but the parents don't see anything. But what the parents do see is that Bill is in Georgie's room and they are not happy.
Yeah, I just want to say that's so funny about this movie is because like the parents and the older people, like we mentioned earlier, are kind of like oblivious to what they're seeing. So like when the kids see the parents like touch the blood, the parents are basically like bathing themselves in the fucking blood. Like they're all about the blood, but obviously to them, they're just like not touching blood.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist to them. It just exists to the kids.
That's so creepy, isn't it? How like
Mhm.
he could just do that to you and just make you see it only and no one else.
Oh yeah, no, that
It
part
makes you sound like a crazy person.
Yeah, that's why that part's all very well done, because like no matter what the kids say, no one sees it except them. So it's like, who's going to believe that this book is bleeding blood if you don't see it?
Who also believes young kids. I feel like young kids don't have really a leg to stand on.
No, it's very unfair. Their opinion is not heard.
It's not. I'm one of the people too. I don't listen to the kids.
So now young Bill, he puts his hand on his face and looks up towards the ceiling and with fear. And then it flashes back to adult Bill being like, "Oh, Georgie, how could I have forgotten that you were murdered?"
Yes, which was what I was alluding to, that they forget these pieces of their childhood without, once they have left Derry. So now Bill, he is packing, he is ready to go, and he's explaining to his wife that Mike Hamlin called and he has to go to Derry.
He hasn't seen him in 30 years since they were kids. He's like, "Listen, Audra, my brother Georgie didn't just die. He was murdered." He's like, "I just didn't remember that part until now. But yeah, I gotta go."
Yeah, and he basically is like, "Promise me, no matter what, you will not follow me to Derry. Do not come to Derry."
She's like, "Bro, why are you stuttering?"
Yeah, that does happen too. Does he tell her here that it's like a childhood thing that he got over or something? Yeah, he does. So Bill's going. He's going to Derry. And now we cut to New York City.
The big city.
Yes.
The Big Apple.
And we're cutting to Ben. And he's in the limo. And he's with one girl.
Yeah, it's with one girl, and they're a little trashed.
Yeah, well, he breaks his award.
Oh, they're sloshed.
They're a little trash.
This is like Dale after 2 cases of Purple Haze sloshed.
Oh my God, absolutely.
So, like Brian said, Ben is played by John Ritter. And this is the perfect time to say he is, besides Tim Curry as Pennywise, my favorite actor to character in the movie.
So John Ritter, I feel like I've never seen him in too many things, but everything I've seen him in, he just absolutely crushes. He's so talented.
Yeah.
I think the only movie I've seen John Ritter in was Problem Child.
I thought you were going to say Bride of Chucky, but...
Oh my God, I forgot he was in that.
Yep.
I was staring at him like the whole movie, like, where else have I seen you? Where else have I seen you? I could look it up. I won't, but where else have I seen you?
Yeah, I was staring at him too, and I'm just like, I just want to tear those fucking pants off.
I was staring at who's the guy playing Bill?
Richard Thomas, I think the actor's name is.
I couldn't help but like the entire movie as him as an adult, like look at him and not think of that Austin Powers scene where he's like, Molly, 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 Molly.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, that's him?
No.
No.
That's just like
He just has a mole.
Oh, okay.
From Austin Powers.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't see the mole. I hate his hair so much. I couldn't take my angry gaze off of
right?
it.
The rat tail too just really
Yeah.
threw me off any rhythm for this. Like that, they just snipped the rat tail off. I think
So
I would have
funny.
been okay, but
You think?
I might have made it through okay.
I literally deducted a whole point off of my rating because of Bill's hair.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Ben is like taking this girl to his like warehouse studio apartment.
Is it like his office / apartment?
This is like straight Soho loft.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it is a
pretty much.
loft. And like he's talking to her, and now this is a theme of this movie where people get off to really weird things. Ben starts to get off telling this girl how fat he was and how he lost all of his weight.
Oh, he was a real butterball. You bet your fern on it.
It's a thing we used to say as kids. You bet your fern.
They start to like rub each other like they're gonna get ready to get into it.
Dale. Oh, Dale.
You know, and I'm thinking it might be our first passion bump of the movie.
I mean, it's definitely not,
I'll
but
take it.
you're digging that, Jen? You think that's a passion bump?
I think that's a passion bump. They're getting hot and heavy.
Passion bump. Passion bump. Passion bump.
There's only a few of them.
Yeah, there's not many.
I mean, I have about like
Da-
5.
Dale had,
I told Dale we're gonna cut some of his.
Dale had like 45. I didn't even have one.
I had
I'll hear you out. I will not accept all of them.
I'm with that.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
There's one for sure I'm with Dale on, but we'll see
Okay.
when we get to the rest.
I have another, and I just finished it again, and I don't remember what it was. So hopefully it's one of yours.
Yeah, hopefully it comes back to you. So after that passion bump and Ben getting off to how fat he used to be as a kid, Mike now calls Ben, and now we cut to the
What's going on, Haystack?
we're cutting to the flashback of Henry Bowers, and
You want me to take this one?
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Am I gonna get into my critiques now, or
Yeah, no, this is the scene to get
okay?
into it.
So the whole thing is, it's not that I don't like Stephen King, right?
Mhm.
I think he's a brilliant storyteller. I really do. I think the guy's got such great original ideas. And even with the knocks on him not really finishing up strong, even putting that aside, I think he really struggles writing ancillary side characters. And that's not even me saying that. That's been a knock on his entire career.
Yeah, he has a thing where he writes bullies very over the top, and I guess the word to call is like religious zealots, like way over the top as well.
Yeah, because
like
what he does is he takes like these small town, like I guess stereotypes, but like magnifies them and makes them unbelievable. So I'm fine with the stereotype, but when you make the character hard for me to actually believe, I kind of like lose focus on that. Like that character is not impressive to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like I lose a lot of like respect for the writing for that character.
Yes, which now we'll get into why you feel that way and why I agree with you. So Mike tells Ben it has come back. Ben says he'll come, don't worry. The girl asks him if he's all right. And he basically says no. And this is when he goes to the top of a construction site. And now we begin our flashback to Ben. And he is just basically insta-bullied the second he is in this classroom.
These kids, age 12, right?
They're supposed to be 12 or 13.
They actually might be, they've been left back, right? So they're probably older.
So maybe, at most,
Henry
let's
Bowers, yeah.
let's just say at most Henry Bowers is 14.
He really fucking like hates Ben.
Porker.
Yeah, we're in this classroom. Ben's basically introducing himself as the new kid.
Yes.
Look at that gut.
Yeah, they're instantly just calling him a porker and fat. Ben locks eyes with Bev.
Yeah, he does.
Oh yeah.
There's some chemistry there.
There's some chemistry brewing with Ben and Bev and Eddie and Bev and Bill and Bev and Mike and Bev and Stanley and Bev and Richie and
Bev and Pennywise.
And so
No.
So, Henry Bowers, for calling Ben a porker, gets 1 week's detention, and I absolutely love that Henry blames Ben.
Yeah, yo, this is my favorite fucking part of this movie, I swear. It's so funny. He gets detention. Ben doesn't say a word to him. He looks over at Ben, he goes, "You're fucking dead."
Yeah, because isn't that like the whole thing? That's like bullies in any movie. Like the bully gets in trouble for being a bully, and then the people who he was picking on, he's like, well, now I'm gonna blame you because you didn't let me pick on you.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like the kid had
Stupid.
nothing to do with anything. He was actually made fun of. He made fun of him, and then he's dead indirectly for the bully's mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing where I was like, you don't have to ask where the adults were in this movie. They're everywhere. They're around.
Oh, yeah, no, they definitely show. They show basically all the kids' parents.
I think before the scene ends, she talks about how there's like a 7 p.m. curfew.
Yes.
Because of all the missing / slain kids.
And then the scene cuts to Ben outside the school. He like looks down the stairs at like the road and like the schoolyard and all that. And then Bev appears behind him. You like this view so much, you're gonna stand there all day. And then 2 girls come behind them. these two little shits.
Yeah, literally.
And they walk behind there and they're like, "Excuse me, we're trying to get through." And they're like, "Some people have no class. Some people have janitors for dads." And then they just start walking away.
First of all,
I'm like, "You little shit."
is that like a knock on janitors? I'm sure janitors probably make fine money. I mean, like I don't really
they have to clean up after freaking everyone.
So like I don't get the knock, but I just like their snooty attitude at their young age. Like I thought that was super like funny.
Mind you, Derry is like poor town. So it's like, how well is your dad doing to be making these kind of remarks?
I do think they established half of Derry is poor town. The other half is okay.
Oh, is it?
Like,
They did say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
And that's
Bev
just
lives
their,
in poor town.
That's just their knock on saying how like Bev like doesn't have like any friends. And I mean, we see, like we said, like they give way more backstory in the new one, but in this it's kind of implied that Bev's living alone with her dad. And throughout this whole movie, it's very much implied that like her dad is like taking advantage of her and assaulting her.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of known, and other parents like are just rude as fuck and just kind of knock her family for it.
I mean, the dad, though, to be fair, he worries about Bev a lot.
Oh my god.
A lot.
He says that line so many
A
times.
lot.
I worry, Bev. I'll worry a lot.
You're good.
That is such a great impression, Sage.
You want to know why though? And I'll tell you why. Do you want to know why? I think Jen knows why. Because Shane is a father.
He is.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, what your little girl needs you, Shane.
I worry a lot.
So Bev tells Ben, saying, hi, I'm Beverly Marsh. It's nice to meet you. Welcome here. And then she walks away. And then Ben goes, Beverly Marsh.
He literally quotes her name like they just made love on the way back home. And then it's Henry Bowers' time. This guy's ready to go. He's got the pocket knife. Two of his platoon mates, they grab him up. They snatch him up. Good old Porker. And they put him up against like a cliff, right?
Yeah.
Or like a hill.
It's like a fence hill cliff.
He's being held by Belch, and I don't know the name of the other friend.
I'm actually pretty sure they replaced that bully like 10 times in the movie. The third bully. But yeah, so he wants to make sure that Ben remembers his name. So he's going to carve it into his stomach like a jack-o'-lantern.
Like, I love this because, like, if he carves his name, clearly he did this crime. It's like if I went and robbed a store and just carved Shane Smith into the fucking thing. Ridiculous. But he's going to carve up the fat kid like he's the roast pig.
He's not the smartest bully.
No.
He's insane. That's what I'm saying. Like, I have a hard time believing this character, which is why he's one of my favorite characters.
If you notice, Belch and the other friend, there's like, Henry, you're not really going to do it, are you? Like,
he's like, oh no, I'm actually going to cut him from rib to rib. He's like, I'm slicing this porker up.
Oh, yeah.
The bullies, though, the other two bullies eventually really start to get into the murder aspect of Henry Bowers because they start by questioning the carving. Later on, they're ready for murder.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fact.
Since Ben is so fat, though, he falls through the fence and falls down the hill.
Like a riverbank, right?
Yeah.
Falls backwards. Yeah.
Wait, how does that comply with him being so fat? If he was so fat, he shouldn't have been able to fit.
Didn't he break through it?
He kicks, and I think he falls backwards after the kick.
Yeah, he kicks Henry Bowers in like the stomach.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If he kicks Henry Bowers, when he put all of his weight back, I'm saying the fat kid weight broke the fence.
No, of course. He's right. You have to understand, we're dealing with a real fat fuck here. I mean, like, that balance is going to be bad. He's going to fall backwards.
Yikes.
Be nice. He's being bullied right now. He's
we're
nearly being
essentially
cut up.
Henry Bowers and Belch right now.
I don't like bullies. I really don't. Scum of the world.
I would love to read like a memoir on fucking Stephen King to see where all this inspiration came from.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, right.
Very interesting. Ben is now running through the woods, and he hides in a pipe.
Yeah, it's like this large
drainage pipe, right?
But,
I guess you would call it.
but it's got enough room to fit him, so it's sizely.
Nobody kicks me. I'm going to kill you, fat boy. And that's basically what the group is saying the whole time chasing him.
Yes.
But they miss him. They don't see him.
This pipe is huge, but unnoticeable. They run into Eddie and Bill, who are building their beaver dam. And this is now Henry's second attempt at murder. Technically, it's not because we find out Eddie actually doesn't have asthma, but he takes Eddie's inhaler and Eddie's having this asthma attack. Henry's like, yeah, I ain't giving this back to you. You can die right here.
He's literally struggling for breath. And he's like, oh, you need the inhaler? It's up here. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
He basically says like, stop doing that.
It's like
stop doing that.
It's like he's got like a fishing pole and he's casting and he's just holding the inhaler above the dying Eddie Kasparek, who's literally like, I don't know. I'm short, but I think he's like a midget.
Yeah, he's really, really tiny. The bullies eventually give back the inhaler and they say, if you find Ben, you better like give him to us, essentially. Ben comes out, he shoots the shit with the two of them. And Bill's like, I have to go get Eddie's other inhaler. Can you stay with Eddie?
Ben's like, yeah, that's fine. Bill runs back. He's got to go fast because Eddie's literally struggling for breath. And then Eddie's like, well, what are we going to do if they come back? And then Ben's like, I don't care. I'm eating this candy bar and you're going to have some too. But don't, because I kind of want it all for myself.
Yeah. But then they do what like kids at their age do. They bond over their dead fathers. Eddie's dad had died of cancer. Ben's dad died in the Korean War, I think he says.
Well, the thing is,
because he was in the Air Force, right?
They died of the two big C's, cancer and Korea.
I'm going to go on record saying I know Korea starts with a K.
That's subjective.
You graduated, right?
Bill comes back riding the bike.
And this is a nice bike. I think he calls it silver, right? It's a silver Schwinn.
Yeah, it's old Hi-Ho Silver. away.
Oh, nice. I remember my first Schwinn.
And it's like as Bill's making his way back, Eddie just gives him like a quick side note of like, hey, somebody murdered Bill's brother Georgie. If you want to really be on his good side, don't bring it up. Ben says something like, that's really tough. And then like Bill's like, what's tough? And Eddie just like shuts it down real quick. It's like nothing really.
Yeah. They all agree to hang out tomorrow. So Ben is officially part of this group now with Bill and Eddie. And they actually do what I think kids did in the 50s, and that's throw rocks into a lake or river.
Me and you sometimes are almost like telepathic. That's the word, telepathic?
Yeah, telepathic.
Yes.
I literally have verbatim what you said in my notes. I'm not kidding.
Really?
Yes.
I love it.
Not kidding. They start skipping stones like everybody did in the 50s.
That's incredible.
We're going to build a the dam.
Yeah, so that's what they're going to do tomorrow. But now we're going to cut to Brian's favorite part of the movie. Now, I know he said Henry Bowers is his favorite part of the movie, but let's be honest. There's nothing Brian loves more than well-written poetry.
Yes.
And Ben is a poet.
Yeah, he's a poet, all right. And he's writing a good one here. So good that his cousin grabs it, snatches it up, and reads it out loud. But it's not finished yet. In any case, it is, your hair is winter fire, January embers. And then Ben just starts fucking throwing fists.
His then aunt walks in and she breaks them up, and she basically just says, if your dad wasn't dead and your mom wasn't like on welfare, I wouldn't have you guys live here. It's my Christian duty.
Yeah, she literally does say that.
No. The cousin says, I hate you. My mom only said you're staying with us because it's our Christian duty.
Yeah.
Yes, but then the mom describes basically why they're staying there.
The mom's like, I know that my son is beating your son up, but your son has to apologize.
They think like that Ben's a ruffian. They think he's just like, honestly, they think he's dirt.
It's messed up because Ben's a sweet guy.
He is.
Salt of the earth.
Fat kid. But.
Yeah. Ben's mom asks Benny to apologize, but he says he hates it here. He rides off with his bike. He's just out.
Yeah, he is gone because he's got friends he wants to, meet up with. So he's going to go to the forest. But instead of his friends, he sees his father.
Yes.
And he's in like a military suit.
Yeah.
And he's waving. He's like, hi, Ben.
And his dad is explaining how the sewer is his new home and he has balloons.
He's actually in the marsh, too. He's like standing in the marsh.
Yeah, he's standing like on top of water.
But he's a big balloon dad. Loves balloons, especially when his voice starts to distort like the clown we heard earlier. I mean, like now Ben's never seen the clown yet, but as the viewer, we have. So we know that this is the same entity.
And it's like every time they cut to the dad, like standing on the marsh, you see his Air Force outfit start to slowly transform into a clown outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool how they do that. And he's like, they float. They all float. I feel like I'm doing such a disservice by even like slightly attempting to say it.
Yeah, Tim Curry's amazing. I think he actually had a stroke in the past like couple years.
He's so freaking good. Like honestly, every role just kills. Even Ginger Clown.
You know what sucks? I knew you were going to that movie. That movie's awful. Why
So we're gonna watch it.
No. Well, we could.
I petition to watch it.
I would watch it, dude. It's like a really corny, like 80s style jocks.
That's perfect.
Yeah, like I said, you know, Jen. One of my favorite things. What is it? Hot dudes and tight chicks. Let's go.
Yeah, Brian, Hot Boy LaGrassa really loves some tight hot dudes.
He does.
I really do. I do. It gets me off. I don't know what to say.
But enough with the tight dudes, hot chicks. Let's talk about how the dad now transitioning into a clown.
Tight dude, hot chick clown.
Yes.
Yeah.
He then gets attacked by a marsh skeleton.
Marsh skeleton does grab him, and with that same voice of the clown, calls him Fat Boy.
I don't know if you guys got this too, but I think the marsh skeleton represents like the skeleton of his dead father.
Yes.
100%.
100%, right? We all agree on this?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Probably. And like the marsh is representative of Bev Marsh because she's kind of like in the middle of these couple relationships and she's like kind of sucking him down and he's got to stay afloat. You know what I'm saying?
And she's constantly wet.
You just honestly slam dunked what I was gonna say. Shane's gone. Shane's off the podcast.
I'm gonna check out for that one.
Dale, honestly, give me a fucking hand clapper for that shit.
Was not expecting Dale to go down that road.
Oh, man.
Okay, with that said, cut to Chicago with Bev.
And we are going to the offices of Beverly by hand. She receives a call from Maine, and she wants to take this call, but her asshole business partner, Tom, and her lover as well, it's like, absolutely not. That we have a meeting with these Japanese guys, and all they have to do is play a little good cop, bad cop, and they're going to sink this deal.
It's not even good cop, bad cop. It's bad cop, hot cop. I think that's what he wants to play. They go downstairs and meet the Japanese businessmen, and then they seal the deal.
They do seal the deal because they're in bed next.
Second passion bump for me.
No, absolutely not.
How?
Absolutely not.
You just sealed the deal. They got it in, and it was hot.
Did they get it in though? Did they reference that?
He literally rolls off her like he was just in missionary style.
She is living with him. He technically is her live-in boyfriend.
Yes. No, I just didn't get, like, I didn't correspond that to fucking.
You know, see, I took it as they had just finished fucking, but I had never been more flaccid in my life after seeing the two of them together. So I'm not gonna passion bump this, but
We definitely don't have to.
Like, usually a passion bump will make me do something like this.
Okay.
For those who can't see, which was everyone listening, Brian has gone spread eagle in his chair.
I like to spread. I like to spread them out.
I'm only like throwing the passion bump out there to see if you guys agree with what I thought it was.
Keep casting. Are we doing this passion bump or no? Because I didn't feel it.
I didn't feel it
Yeah,
either.
if you guys don't feel it, don't worry about it.
I think Jen was feeling it though.
I would passion bump it because Bev was feeling it. Bev was really into him. He's not a great guy. He's definitely abusing her, but she's feeling it in the scene.
All right, you know what? I'm a fair guy.
Yeah, I'm fair too.
Passion bump it.
Dale is fucking 2 for 2. What are we doing? What the fuck is going on here?
I'm all about the passion, bro.
We know.
I respect it, actually.
So after this night of wonderful, passionate lovemaking, Mike Hamlin finally gets in touch with Bev.
Yeah. Tom at this time is downstairs, so he's not here for this phone call. He's grabbing a bottle of wine, which he drips on the floor and doesn't clean it up. So this just sums up his whole character here.
Actually, I think he actually grabs a bottle of champagne.
Possible.
Because he actually like pops it open like a champagne bottle.
I know nothing about alcohol. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah, we strictly drink Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Head vodka.
That's true. I got it right over there.
You liars. You have some Trulies in your fridge.
Let's get the Crystal Head out. Not sponsored, but we got it on deck.
You guys drink Trulies. Stop fucking with everyone.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I definitely drink Truly. And I can't even drink more than 2 because I'm like super lightweight because I'm not a big drinker. I never really was. So
we are well aware.
You were tasting those high noons for a little while, right?
I'm not kidding. 2 Trulies, I'll feel something.
Yeah.
I'm feeling hot.
Yeah, this isn't a big drinkers podcast because I mainly just drink Prosecco at this point.
I think it truly has less than 5% alcohol. Just think about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it hits you a little different if you have more than 2.
It does.
So
I'm trapped with a bunch of lightweights.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So does Bev's guy have a name?
Tom Rogan.
Okay, so Tom Rogan is walking back into the bedroom and Bev is just like packed and ready to go. He has the most normal response to this situation where he just instantly slaps her in the face.
Totally normal response. Your very sweet wife has to go on a trip.
Girlfriend.
To see an old friend. Is it girlfriend?
Yeah, it's girlfriend.
Yeah, they're not married in this movie.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is right. She has to see a friend she hasn't seen in 30 years. It seems like a very important thing. And she's totally deserving of this guy's open palm slap to her face. Another one of the great Stephen King's greatly written characters.
This guy's whole character is, I'm going to beat you with a belt.
Well, it's based on her dad.
He's basically a younger version of her father.
Yeah, no, and I get that. It makes more sense. Like, I think because of that whole aspect, it makes more sense than like the Henry Bowers crazy psychopathic character.
You know, it's the stuff he says while he's doing this. He goes, you know, you're contradicting me here, mouthing off there, smarting off there. And he goes, you forgot your manners, and goes to grab a belt.
Yeah, like she's back then a child because they would just beat their children with belts back then.
I also got my ass kicked with a belt. I got it good. Yeah. Charlie is the name of the belt. Got me good.
The belt had a name?
Charlie.
Yikes.
Now you can see why I am the man I am today.
Okay.
So with that said, this is her big like stand up for herself moment where she just starts pelting him with objects in the room and saying he will never touch her again. He will never hit her again. He will never come near her again. She gets him in the head with what object does she get him in the head with?
What I believe it is, it's like maybe a little tub of like lotion, because it looked white. It looked like the stuff inside it was white, a face cream a lotion.
Yeah, it had to be something solid because she was throwing glasses that were cracking, and then this thing didn't crack. It just rocked him in the head.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He actually he was like hit.
Like
he felt that.
He looked like he almost had like a concussion.
No, he's concussed. Like he went down.
Few years you'll dissect his brain and find out he had CTE.
The thing I wanted to bring up real quick was that when like before he says like, you know, if you get back into bed you might be able to leave in 2 days instead of 2 weeks, she gets like a quick flash of what Mike was telling her on the phone saying like, you made a promise, Bev, you made a promise to come back to Derry, and then she starts throwing the stuff at him.
Yeah,
so it's like I like how they did that in the movie. Like the influence of this promise really got everyone to like really believe how strong their friendship was.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not even really, it really gets strong. It's not put in this movie, but it's for sure it's strong. And so the whole thing was that whole pact that they made. And I will get into this later of how I think this is the stupidest thing in the world, but they're really close friends. One summer brought them really close together. And this is like their bond, the summer that all of their characters never forget. Well, I mean, they do technically forget it, but when they remember it, it's the time of their life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She leaves, she picks up a cab.
Yep.
And now she's headed to the airport.
And then she gets a flashback of her as a little girl.
Her doorbell rings. She goes to answer her doorbell and she sees the poem on the ground, and you just see Ben hiding in the bushes.
So funny. He's like,
yeah,
give me my poem.
So she starts reading the poem out loud, but her dad shows up and he reads the poem.
Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too. That's a stanza almost. And as a poet myself, they should be ashamed of themselves for writing this. Not only writing this, but for being 12 years old. This is a disaster. And he's fat.
I mean, I think it was sweet.
Yeah, I think you're being a little harsh of a critic here. But her dad obviously rips this up. She's like, some boy wrote this for you, being with some boys. He slaps her in the face. And he's like, Bev, you know I worry a lot.
This character's fucking ridiculous, dude. She doesn't do anything. The boy writes a love letter. He should get slapped in the face for it.
So what I do think, though, Jen is right. What the movie is alluding is that the dad's almost jealous that other boys are showing her attention, since he is kind of, I guess it's alluded to, he's abusing her. Like Jen had said.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on here. But the way the dad speaks, it's sick, but it makes me laugh like all the time. His character just makes me laugh.
I'm not kidding when I say this. Usually when like I see something like such an outlandish, ridiculously written character, I tend to like those characters. I'm trying to think of another example of a really poorly written character that I just really liked because of how crazy the character was. Oh, the Devils, Father Barre, fucking psychopath, like fucking crazy. My favorite character in the fucking movie.
Yeah, he's wild.
So Mr. Marsh is your favorite character of this movie?
It's probably Bowers, if I had to pick one of the two, because Bowers' his gut reaction is actually to slice a gut.
That's facts.
Yes.
Which is sick. It's like sick in every sense of the word. Like, this is not a bully. This is a potential murderer. Like, this is attempted murder.
So as Bev runs out of the house, the dad says, I'm going to whip the skin off you when you get back.
You're born for this role.
I was meant to be in a Stephen King movie. I know.
They could have casted you for this part.
Thank you. So she's hiding in a bush, and Ben, being the bush guy that he is, comes up to her to see if she's okay.
And right there, this should be the red flag. Okay, you wrote me the poem. I mean, like,
yeah.
And she probably knows to some degree.
She kind of doesn't, because she thinks Bill wrote it for some reason.
I know.
I mean, she's definitely a little sweet on Bill.
She's sweet on all of them. After they're talking, Ben, being the nice guy that he is, invites her to come to the Barrens to hang with him, Eddie, and Bill to build a dam. She agrees.
Yep.
And when they go down there, I believe Richie and Stanley also show up at this point. So now we're meeting pretty much the whole gang, the whole Losers Club.
Yeah, and Richie's like the comic relief character of the group, and Stanley's like the Boy Scout.
And as Brian said, Richie is played by a young Seth Green.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing Seth Green. He's so big in like our generation, seeing him pop up as young kids in so many like all these little movies here and there. It's kind of special. I don't think he does a particularly great job in this movie. Not really his fault. I just don't think that the jokes were great.
Well, that's
they really weren't.
That Richie's whole thing his jokes are terrible. Even adult Richie, as this famous comedian, he just rants.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if the jokes are bad or I just really don't get anything he's saying.
What I actually think it is the jokes are dated. They're dated for that time period. Like, I think that's what people in the 50s found funny. Whereas, like, obviously humor evolves over time.
Yeah, because like if you hear him, like he has the delivery and like the pacing of a stand-up comic.
Like the charisma.
Nothing of his landed for me. I also didn't understand anything he was saying. I also he was talking so fast, I couldn't even hear anything he was saying.
Beep beep, Richie, beep beep.
I literally love when he goes to Eddie and goes, "How you doing, Eddie Spaghetti?" That's my favorite name of the whole movie.
It's funnier when you say it than when Richie says it.
It truly is funnier when you say it. Now they're part of the group and they all start working on this dam. They complete it. And I got to ask, what the fuck is the dam for?
I think they're just trying to stop the water flow into Derry to kill all of the people.
I think it was just a fun activity for the group to do together to bond more, personally.
It didn't really look like they were stopping much of anything. It looked like a pond.
Yeah, just a little pond. It's not like the whole forest was overflowing or anything.
Well, they want a buildup of water so later on they can open the floodgates.
I mean, you're right, though, because the cop does come by later. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
He's like, why are you like stealing all the water from Derry and putting it here? Oh, by the way, curfew.
So the gang all leaves. Hi-ho Silver away as Bill rides away on his bike.
He's riding a Schwinn. He's hitting the Mach 5.
And Bev is just staring at Bill. And I think she even recites one of the lines of the poem here.
That is true. She thinks that Bill wrote the poem.
And you can just tell in Ben's face now, Ben is super jealous of this.
Defeated.
Yeah.
He walks away so defeated.
That was sad. That was sad. When Ben walked away, sad.
Yeah.
Ben's a nice guy, so that was sad.
See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile.
Oh my God, Dale.
Whew. So Bev is back in her house and she hears Sink voice.
There's a voice coming from the sink.
Sink voice. This scene.
And she's like, who are you? And the voice from the sink is like, we're all the dead kids.
And then you start to see like a red balloon start to come out of the sink.
Yeah, and the voice is like, come closer. We all want to meet you. And then the balloon pops, spraying blood all over the bathroom.
So she starts screaming. She gets her dad. Her dad goes and like looks in there and he's like, so this is another instance where he's touching the blood, but he doesn't see it. He touches Bev's face and he's like, Bev, I worry a lot. Yeah. And like, he like strokes her face with the blood.
That's the thing. Like they don't see it. So like, it's kind of funny when you see the adults like touch the stuff with the blood and then just put it wherever they're touching. So like he's like just smearing it all over Bev's face.
That happens so much.
Yeah, I honestly though, like it's both funny and creepy.
No,
like,
it's
a really good
so
scene.
creepy.
The character is sick, obviously.
Yeah.
Like the guy is an abusive dad, but it's like comical in the sense how they don't see the blood, but they're just like reckless with it.
Yeah, no,
like,
I'm with you. That's what I'm saying. I agree. Like it's both like I wonder if that was the intention of this scene to be both eerie but funny at the same time because it delivers in that.
It does.
I mean, once Mr. March leaves the bathroom, Bev goes into the corner and then you see like the pool up of blood in the sink start to gargle.
Yeah.
And then he says, "You'll die if you try to fight us. You'll die if you try."
I feel so bad for Bev. The amount of times throughout this movie she cleans this goddamn sink.
Oh my God.
Now we cut to, I believe it's Great Neck, New York.
Yes.
And we get to see adult Eddie, and he's packing, and his mom is once again super concerned about him, like she always is.
I always think, like, which one of these kids has the worst life? It's got to be either Bev or him, right?
Without a doubt. Like Bill's brother was murdered, and his life still wasn't as bad as Eddie's and Bev's. I'm not even saying that as a joke. Like that had to be miserable growing up with Eddie's mom or Bev's dad.
Well, if that ever happened, I'm gonna blame Eddie. He had to leave. How dare he stay with that like really controlling mom? He's like in his 40s, and she's telling him he can't leave the fucking house.
Eddie and Bev definitely had the worst childhoods.
Yeah,
out of the group for sure. So, he starts like grabbing medicine out of the medicine cabinet, packing it into a little bag, and like Eddie's mom's like, "Where are you going? Where are you going, Eddie?"
Yeah, she's like constantly badgering him.
What's wrong? Something's wrong. What happened with that phone call?
Yeah, because
talk to me, Eddie. Talk to me.
This is, I think, one of the few ones where you actually don't get the phone call. The phone call already happened.
Exactly, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's gonna go with a coworker and drive to the train station.
Correct. And that's when we start his flashback. They're at the movie theater. They're on the top balcony.
I think they're watching a Wolfman.
They are.
The Wolfman. I literally have the Wolfman movie written here.
And Richie throws his drink over the balcony, spilling it all over Henry Bowers and his bullies.
Pick over popcorn, soda, the works, and they got to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. They do what the kids do. They escape through the woods, and then they see that big, like, I guess it is a sewer opening, right?
I called it like a sewage plant, right?
I have no idea what to call it. I was hoping you guys did. I just called it the sewer. I didn't know what to call it.
I'm going to call it the sewage plant from Resident Evil 2.
Fine.
All right.
This is when, we start to see that side of Bev. She gives Richie a kiss. She gives Eddie a kiss.
It's our first date.
I really respect Bev Marsh. And I'm going to label her promiscuous Bev because she's exploring her sexuality at a young age. She's got a lot of potential suitors. She has to see which one is worthy of her.
Bev's
She's
actually my
not
favorite
thinking like
character.
that, though. She's not thinking like that. She's just grateful to have friends at that point.
See, that's what normal people would think, but I'm trying to get into the mind of Stephen King here.
So yeah, they're like exchanging like humorous banter and all that, and like Ben's really focused on the sewage plant during the scene. Like he's really like focused, looking at it, and the group starts to like walk away, and Eddie like lingers behind, like looking at Ben, being like, "What's going on with him here?"
Yeah,
Because he hasn't really seen Pennywise yet, so like Ben has. So he's looking at the sewage plant, and like Eddie's like, I wonder what's wrong with Ben here. I wonder why he's so focused on this sewage plant.
Do you want to know something about the sewage plant?
Of course.
Yes.
Since this first aired on TV, there's been a lot of speculation about the sewer building, the pump house, I think is what we're focusing on. Everyone wants to know like where that scene from Joker happened, like in Brooklyn or whatever, I think somewhere in New York. They wanted the same thing for this sewage building, the pump house. This whole building was actually... It was rumored it was a set that was torn down almost immediately after, so they built it technically. The real building, like in the area that is like a sewage pump area, is the old Bunsen Lake hydro plant in Canada. The whole building looked super different in 1990, but after it shut down in the early 2000s, it now like has a more faded look, and people go to it because that's what it resembled, but you're not allowed to go in without authorization. So people refer to that place in Canada as the reference for this pump house that we're talking about here. But the real one was rumored to completely just be a set because it doesn't look the exact same in real life. Yeah, of course people are looking for it.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. From there,
It's the scene where like they're all jumping, like playing leapfrog, and they're in front of Eddie's house, and Eddie's mom comes out and tells them like, Eddie's not going to be able to play tomorrow, and she brings him back into the house.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
And she's like, he's like, Mom, these are my friends. She's like, you don't need any friends, Eddie. You have your mother.
the worst parenting childhood situations
Yeah.
possible.
So she's like a really unrealistic. I guess it's not unrealistic, but it almost is. Like it's like a hyperbole on like a really overprotective mother that really controls this poor kid's life.
So now we cut to the school where Eddie doesn't shower. The coach or gym teacher makes him shower alone afterwards. That's when the shower heads start to like...
They extend.
An absolutely awesome scene here.
And
It is. It's so creepy.
the CGI obviously wasn't great at the time. So when he first comes out, claymation, stop motion, kind of like
it's stop
how
motion.
they film this scene.
I love when he's trying to come out of the sewer because he's like, oh, this is very inconvenient.
Yeah. It's so
great.
funny. He can't leave the shower because the shower heads have extended and they've kind of coiled around the bathroom. And I think the shower pressure is increased and he's just getting spat on by all these showers and he can't move. Then he looks at the drain, hears a clown's voice and like a white hand pop out of the drain.
He says, "Here I am, Wheezy."
Yeah, it's like that's the cool thing. Pennywise hits them where it hurts.
Yes.
With like a little jab with everything. So he's like up to date. Like this guy knows the kids.
It's like he knows their backgrounds. You're right.
Yeah. He does one of my favorite maneuvers where he puts one hand out of the drain, puts another hand out of the drain, and then you ever like move a fucking drain out of the way so you can pop out of it? Because he does that. He's now in the fucking shower. Excuse my language, but I'm going to keep doing it probably. He likes to show off his pearly whites.
Yeah, he shows sharp teeth, and Eddie is just terrified. And then the scene ends.
What would you call
It's just
that?
Eddie on the train.
What would you call that? Like a roar? He like roars? It's like that demonic.
Oh, it's actually good, Dale. Yeah, something like that. It's like a growl.
Yeah.
He's like hungry.
Well, he's very hungry. He needs to eat children.
I'm confused as to why, like, in that scene, like, he didn't eat Eddie, or, like, I get, like, how the majority of them got away, but, like, Bev and Eddie, I feel like that would have been, like, the prime situation for him to get them.
I personally think the reason why he does this is that I think he's introducing himself to them for the first time. He just wants to like
Nest in their fear, maybe.
yeah, he wants them to think about him. So he knows going in the first time he's not really going to harm them. He's just going to just scare them enough to make them think, can this possibly be real?
So no, I get it, because when I was in high school and I was bullied, I wanted to manifest fear and fight back. So I would make sure that those shower heads extended whenever these punks were in the shower, and I really got them good. They never knew it was me either.
So I was just going to say, they're older than the other kids that we've actually seen it eat right away.
Yeah.
And it does specifically mention it feeds more so off of the fear than the children themselves.
Okay.
So maybe the older they are, the more fear he needs to put into them before he can eat them.
You think
That's actually great, Shane. I love that analysis.
well, he's got to
That's
put it in the
pretty
fear
good.
bank, right?
Yeah, the fear bank.
like, you know, if he's attacking a kid that's maybe like 7, 8 years old,
They'll fear more.
than like someone who's like 12, 13 years old. It might take a little more work to get him going.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
that does make a lot of sense.
There's not too many use of color technically in this movie. Like I don't find that Stephen King uses like color theory too much in certain things. But one thing to note about King is that Stephen King said that the color green for him represents death, unease, or the supernatural. So I don't remember a lot of his other movies right now. I'm sure when we rewatch some of them, maybe we'll see it. But in this movie in particular, the color green is so vibrant, especially like in the marshlands and everything else. So it's represented like a lot in this movie. When I was reading that, I was like, I turned to the movie because I was rewatching it and I was like, it was a full scene where Ben was looking at the marsh and I was like, this is all green. The only thing that's not green is the pump house.
Yeah, that's very true.
So now scene's going to transition to the present day Richie Tozier, who's doing some stand-up comedy in studio. He kind of walks off the set. His manager is kind of badgering him.
This is the most successful group of kids of all time.
You're
Yeah,
right.
literally.
They literally all are on TV or own their own company or are doing movies.
Oh yeah, they're killing it.
yeah,
right now.
they're killing the game.
it.
So
They really manifested their trauma well.
Yeah,
He's in the back room and like there's a ton of people in there, but there's a phone and he does pick it up because it keeps ringing and it's Mike. And he asks him if he remembers and he certainly does remember, at least bits.
yes, because now he has his flashback. Back at school, Richie's getting bullied and smashes his lunch tray into Henry Bowers. One thing for Richie, he's the one guy who always stands up to Henry Bowers.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, and if somebody was picking up some mashed potatoes and spreading it all over my eyeglasses, I would do the same exact thing.
Well, dude, that's like the one way to you beat a bully. If you're doing it in like a public square, because the whole bullies is like my dominance over you. But if you just outsmart them with comedy, they just look so fucking weak.
especially when the whole cafeteria is
Sees
laughing
it.
at them.
The sad thing is Richie turns to run or just walk away and slams into the principal, smashing the food tray into the principal now. So now Richie has to go into the basement to get the janitor because everyone knows the janitors live in a basement. I've seen Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake.
I thought that Bev's dad was the janitor at this school. So did
He
they?
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So is that who they're talking about? They said his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's him.
Yeah, because Richie goes to knock on the door and he's like, Mr. Marsh, Mr. Marsh.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
See, the problem for Richie is Bev's dad is actually a werewolf.
Big problems right now.
Yeah, because he goes down into the basement and there's a werewolf in a Letterman jacket.
Yeah. So we've got Teen Wolf here. The wolf then turns into a clown.
They all float down here, dude. He keeps saying it.
Beep, beep, Richie.
And then he shows him, the white, beautiful, crispy white teeth, not a stain on those suckers. And then Richie just hightails it out back to the cafeteria. And he's like, everybody, there's a werewolf in the basement.
Starts laughing.
Yeah.
Everyone just starts laughing at him. Besides the group,
They look fucking concerned.
In the book, whenever anyone said beep beep Richie, that was them basically saying, Richie, stop joking, like shut up. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
They don't really I don't really think they reference that in the movie that's what it means. But every
No,
time someone says that.
kind of pick up on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You can definitely pick up on it.
So we cut back to present day and Richie is hugging his toilet.
Yeah, he's had a rough go remembering all this. It was just too much for him. It was overbearing.
Yes. And now we finally get to see Mike's flashback.
Mike is in the Derry library. He's never left Derry. A lot of voiceovers because he's like looking through another photo album of him and the Lucky Seven, the best summer of their lives. He remembers everything. Then you get to the flashback of him as a young boy. I think they're all 12 in this movie. So it's
Yeah.
him as a 12-year-old kid. I think in the book they're younger, actually. I think they're 11 in the book, but don't quote me on that. Please don't.
They aged him up like Game of Thrones.
And again, comment on our Instagram page what their age is in the book. Mike's doing a presentation in the class on the history of Derry. He's going through old photos in his photo album. Henry Bowers interrupts him by throwing a paper airplane at Richie, causing a big commotion. But Mike's mentions, there was a big mystery, that 253 settlers disappeared without a trace, and a bunch of weird shit that's happened throughout the history of Derry, Maine. Walking home, Henry Bowers and his posse take that Derry photo album from Mike. Couple of N-bombs are dropped for sure because this is a different time.
I did write
it's a different time.
N-bombs were dropped.
Yeah.
So the actor who played Henry, every time that he had to say the N-word, he would apologize before and after the scene because he did not want to say that word. So I thought that was very interesting that none of the actors condoned this language, and they were constantly apologizing for it on set when they were filming this.
I mean, that's got to be.
I mean, even if I was shooting this scene saying that word, I would apologize too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable,
It's
but
just uncomfortable
it's
to
tough
say.
when you're writing a piece of like the older times. You have to keep it
Up to date.
exactly.
Yeah.
This is like one of those things where it was good that he apologized, but it's like he has to say it because it's in the script.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can fight. People have fought out of doing stuff all the time when they act. But like, if you're like a young actor and you're trying to get somewhere, you can't be like, no, dude, I'm not going to do this part or I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, especially where this part, it has to be there because this is it doesn't delve into it as much as like the newer ones, but this is how it shows the rift between like Mike's family and Henry's family.
Yeah.
That's how you get that context because he mentions his dad in this part, Henry.
Well, it's like cool that they kept that in because even though like it's like obviously the actors and everyone was aware that that's wrong to do, there's like a lot like at least nowadays going around that like, oh, we shouldn't do this because some people get offended, it's sensitive, we just shouldn't keep it in, and then things don't turn out accurate. So I think this was very good that they like acknowledge that's not good to do, but also they're keeping it accurate. And even though like we definitely see more racism towards Mike in the book and in the new movie, it's still there, which I appreciate.
Agreed. I completely agree with that.
I agree.
He then gets his book back from them and he runs from them. So the chase is on once again. And he runs into the rock quarry and he runs into the group. He runs into Stanley, Richie, Bev, Ben, Bill, and Eddie.
I'd run too if the guy was about to put a cherry bomb in my pocket. It would have blew his dick off.
How about some rocket in your pocket?
Oh my God, Dale, you are so hot.
We cut to like the kids at the rock quarry and they're discussing it and like they're all saying how they finally have seen it, except Stanley. Mike gets to these kids now, and that's when Henry sees all them and he calls them, what is this, the Losers Club?
Yeah.
Which is their iconic name now in the movie. This is when the kids defend Mike. And they really stand up to Henry because they pelt him, Belch, and the twice replaced other bully with rocks.
Yeah.
Twice replaced. I'm dead. This is your twice replaced bully, third time removed. He's here today.
I think it's actually the same guy, but they actually, in this scene with Mike, they actually added 2 extra bullies. So it was 5 of them and not 3. After the rock fight, it becomes the big 3 again, the main 3.
Well, dude, I think Bill is the one that hits him right square in the head, Henry Bowers. And then like they're pelting him. Henry stands up and I think he throws one at Bev and hits her in the stomach.
Actually, you know what, Brian? It actually doesn't hit her in the stomach. It hits her in the wrist because when they cut to like Ben getting all mad, getting ready to run, she's holding her wrist.
Oh, okay. I thought she was like cowering her stomach. She's just holding her wrist.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in any case, Ben just rushes Henry Bowers, tackles him. And like he's running into a group of bullies right now. Like this is crazy.
I love it.
But before that group of bullies takes down Ben, Billy starts running down with a ginormous rock and just smacks it over a dude's back. And this actually causes the bullies to leave. And they actually leave Henry. They're like, bye, Henry. They let Henry go because they're nice kids. And Henry walks out of the quarry and he's like, I'm going to kill you all. Like there's no forgiveness there from this guy.
He's committed.
He really is.
Oh, yeah.
He's consistent, at least. I mean, you could say one thing.
True.
After this happens, they tell Mike that they're in the Losers Club. Mike wants in the Losers Club, calling them the Lucky Seven. Immediately, they're best friends. He decides to just start taking photos. He just sets up a photo camera and just takes a picture.
Yeah.
I remember when our group of friends just started hanging out, and I'm like, guys, group picture in front of the school.
I think we took one in a hot tub.
We actually did. Jen, old pastime of ours, we used to get in the hot tub, just a bunch of dudes, just good dudes, good guys, and we would take off our swimming trunks and float them
Towards Danny.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, so Danny used to be weirded out if like
He was with naked dudes?
there was just naked dudes in the hot tub. So one time we just all took it off and floated it at Danny, and Danny just looked at us like, ah.
So you mentioned that there's a group picture, so you're going to give me that group picture to post to the Instagram, right?
We have it. We don't have them with the floating clothes though. We just
That's okay.
This is just us in a hot tub.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can do
I'll
that.
still take the photo. I'll try and put it up on Instagram. So everyone, if they actually get me the photo, go to the Instagram to look at it. It'll be right after the recording.
I think Sauce is in the photo too.
He is.
Perfect. So
Photo's
we can
very
tag
old.
all of our podcast guests.
Yeah.
Actually, Bonanzi's in the photo too.
Bonanzi's in it.
And
yeah.
is your brother in that one?
I don't know. I don't know.
I have to go look.
So so after Mike takes the photo, the Lucky Seven are basically looking through Mike's album, and Mike's flipping through some pictures. My dad tells me these pictures date back up to like 200 years ago, to like the 1700s.
Yeah, back when Derry was a logging town.
Yes, and Richie recognizes the clown in one of the photos.
It literally says Pennywise the clown.
Yeah.
It reminds him of the clown. Wait, why would Richie remind him of the clown?
Well,
It wouldn't be Richie.
I thought it was Richie.
Richie never seen the clown.
Yes, he did.
No, he did in the basement.
Remember?
Oh yeah, it turns
Yeah.
into it.
And
Never
then,
mind, yeah.
and then the next picture he turned, it's another picture of the clown burning a house, or like burning a building or a house. It has to be a house.
It is it's burning the fucking village down. Like it's in the 1800s, like 1850 something.
Yeah, and then Bill goes, that's it. And then the photo album starts to turn the pages back and forth from cover to cover.
And Bill's like, "Oh, I experienced this in George's room."
And then it stops on a certain photo where you get a live video feed of the photo of, like, I guess this was back in the 1700s.
Yeah, of it like dancing through the streets. And this is the coolest like scene where
yeah.
it starts like, I'm the biggest nightmare you ever had. And it, like he just talks about eating them and
Yeah,
like
he's like, "I'll kill you all. I'll kill you all. I'll
He
drive
goes,
you crazy.
I'll
kill
make
you all."
I'll make you guys experience your worst fears ever. He starts to like form his hand in like a certain way, and he pops his hand out of the photo album for like a quick, maybe like 3 seconds, until Stan grabs the book, closes it, and just throws it to the ground.
Yeah, and then I think after all the reluctance that Stanley had in believing this, he finally succumbs to some belief. Yeah.
Yes. So we now cut back to the present day, and a balloon pops in Mike's face. Then we cut to Stanley. This is when Stanley and his wife are together. They kiss, they discuss having kids and stuff like that. And then Stanley gets a phone call from Mike Hamlin. You just hear Stanley say, "Are you sure?" And you could tell he's just super freaked out. And then he instantly goes to his wife and says, "I have to go upstairs and take a bath." We cut to, this is Stanley's flashback where the kids are practicing shooting a slingshot. And this is when you learn that Bev is one hell of a shot.
She's a dead shot. She's pretty sick with the freaking slingshot.
The rest of the kids were terrible. They were getting like 2 out of 10s, 3 out of 10s. Bev is a perfect 10 out of 10 on this. Like, I don't remember which boy says it, but one of them even says, like, this is like your destiny to do this.
It was supposed to be Bev. It was supposed to be Bev. You know what I liked at the beginning of this scene? The scene starts with Stan, he's in the bathroom, and like he's holding his like, I think his right ear or his left ear, and he starts to tilt his head to the side, and then it flashes to him as a kid doing it.
Yeah, they do that with every character.
Yeah, and he says a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
All things that he barely is.
Yeah. I do like that, how as soon as they get the call, they do get their like childhood tics back, like
I love that.
the stuttering, the ear, the thing, all those.
Stanley's character is probably, and honestly, in the modern time, they all have like good stories, but I actually like his story the most, I want to say, because like he's just like a normal family guy with his wife, and they're about to have a kid. Like literally, they're talking about having a kid, and Stanley, the sex maniac Urus, is about to pop one out real quick.
Oh yeah.
I like that he does kind of call himself that. So Bev is now the slingshot girl. I think one of the kids now presents solid silver to kill it with.
Richie. It's actually his mom's earrings.
My question to this is, how did they know solid silver would kill it? Or is this like just a kid's thing where they think this is going to work?
This, to me, I really hope please explain to me. Because they just are like, oh, let's take a shot. It kind of makes sense. We think we studied it enough to justify the silver. The only thing I was thinking, it's a wolf. But like that was just a form it took, a fear that he had from the Wolf movie.
That's why I took it as it's just like kids are hoping.
Yeah, it's just kid brain justifying like, well, we don't know what else to do, so this will work.
But you know what's crazy? Is like
Probably.
no joke. Like kid brain is what fights this thing. Hope is the antithesis of fear.
You're right, because Bill says, Stan, you gotta believe. You gotta believe that this will kill it.
So the kids are ready, and they're going to go into the sewer to fight it.
Do you guys also think that everyone who got the phone call, except for maybe Bev, I think she was the only one I didn't get this feeling with, but pretty much everyone else like thought about suicide?
For sure. I don't think Bill did. I think Bill was all on board to go.
I think Ben did.
Definitely did, because Ben went up to the top of the construction site. I think he was contemplating jumping.
I think so too.
He was like hanging on the near the edge.
And mind you, he did have that bottle of like whiskey or whatever.
No,
he
exactly.
brought it up with him.
I think Richie definitely considered drowning himself in the toilet. I think Eddie was just happy to get away from his mom.
Yeah.
I think Eddie was on the verge of suicide living with his mom anyway.
True.
So,
but you know what? When he was on that train, like looking away as it was driving off, a tear did fall down his eye as to say, like, I might never see you again. I might never come back.
How many tears? One or two?
One tear.
I thought it was happiness tears, because like, I might never have to see her again.
You gotta let
We can't rule that out.
You gotta let Dale tally it up. He is Dale, the tear counter Cancellieri, for a reason.
True. This is true. We'll get to some tears that you could count for us, I'm sure. Now we're going into the sewer. Henry Bowers is lurking to murder them. And that's not an exaggeration.
It's not.
He actually mentions we're going in there to kill them.
Oh, it's so funny. I have to laugh. They're violent. They're so violent. He is older though, because the teacher just mentioned he's been left back, and like there's no signs of him actually graduating.
Yeah.
So really isn't. Like he would have been a dropout.
All of them take a hit of Eddie's inhaler before they go in.
This is, I don't know if you guys think this is corny. This is actually, I actually felt this.
But then you also remember that it's a placebo, so they're not inhaling anything.
I know, but like, I don't know. For me, this felt like unity.
Yeah, yes. I like it. I like that scene a lot.
Just thank God it wasn't COVID times.
Oh my God.
It was the 1960s in Derry, Maine.
It wasn't the clown. It wasn't Pennywise. It was coronavirus.
That's what they meant. So Henry has the idea that his group should split up to find the kids in the sewer. Then we start to see these really bright lights make their way underneath like the sewer gratings.
Yeah, it's like a radiating light on the bottom.
And one of the bullies, the one that's been replaced 3 times, he sees the light come up from the sewer grating and it gets him.
Oh yeah, pops up right in front of him, and you can just tell it's like tearing him up. I don't think you see it happen. I think you see his face, right?
Yeah,
like
you just see his face.
Yeah, and then it just cuts away.
Yeah. And then the group is like walking through the sewers. Henry and Belt snatch up a Stanley Uris.
Yeah, they kidnap Stanley. The other group of kids, the main group now, they make it to the center. And that's when they finally realize Stanley is missing. Then we cut to Bowers, who is actually going to murder Stan in this instant. But luckily, the light starts to come through a pipe and it grabs Belch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like accordions him into the pipe.
Literally bends him in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is slow-mo, just brought reversed into the pipe.
That I saw this scene and I was like, wow, somebody's flexible. Show off.
Yeah. He goes backwards.
I can't even touch my toes, and he can touch his toes with his head.
It's crazy because he's getting bent in half and he looks possessed at the same time.
Yeah, well, he looks hella dead.
Yeah, he saw the deadlights.
So as he's getting pulled through this pipe, they then see the light start to come back through the pipe, and Stanley just gets the hell out of there. But Henry does not. And the light comes into Henry, but instead of killing him, he kind of like falls into this trance and his hair turns white.
Yeah, he goes full Leland Palmer here. And it looks like he's like you said, the trance. He's got no control of his body, it looks like. He just looks stunned. But Stanley runs off. He tells the rest of the crew, he's like, it's coming. And they gather in a circle in the middle of the room as it approaches. And they kind of fall to the ground. And you see the light like hover over the group, and it just heads into a pipe. After it's gone, the group gets up and they notice like a lit area like beyond them. And I believe the room like starts filling up with like a haze or like a smoke. So they all like have to hold hands and band together to make sure that nobody gets lost.
Yes.
Because they've already lost one friend, but they got Stanley back. So all is good for now.
Yes. And that's when like all the fears start to come. Like Bev's dad starts to talk to them. The werewolf claws start to climb onto Richie's shoulders.
Georgie appears again.
Yeah, with the yellow poncho.
Yes. It then just grabs Stanley. So Stanley has now been kidnapped twice.
Yeah, the Boy Scout Creed is not helping him here. He's getting snatched up again by Pennywise. And he carries him out of the group circle and he pushes him up against the wall. I like the words used here. He's like, let go, be afraid. So he kind of like knows they're kind of like catching on to his game.
Yeah.
So he's like, let go, be afraid, like lower that wall and let me in.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is like Eddie's big moment where he goes, this is battery acid, you slime. And he like sprays it into his like face.
And this is my please explain to me, because how the hell does a placebo melt a fake clown's face?
I'm going to go for like a metaphor here.
Mhm.
I think it's just hope.
You think it's just the hope behind it? The hope is giving this placebo power to melt its face.
You want to know my theory?
Yes.
Of course.
I have a good theory, and it involves other Stephen King movies, because if we pay attention closer, I think I have a connection right here as well. Yes, I do. Okay. In the novel, there's two children connections to other Stephen King characters. McCanlon's father served in the army with Dick Halloran.
The guy from The
he's
Shining.
the cook from The Shining. And Eddie Kaspbrak was also friends with young Paul Sheldon, who as an adult was the protagonist in Misery. A lot of Stephen King books connect. And in The Shining, which we'll probably talk about when we review it, even though Brian hates a lot of Stephen King movies, I'm going to make us do it.
It's my favorite one. It's one of my favorite horror movies. Spoiler.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
We're good there.
So in that movie, the little boy has this quote unquote power, I guess we'll call it, that he shines. And like they talk about it a lot more. And what was the new movie, Dr. Sleep? They talk about it a lot more. But the theory is from Stephen King books that children who experience trauma shine. And in the book, they actually talk about this more, bringing in the turtle, is that all of these kids, the reason he wasn't able to kill them was because he can sense that they possess the power to shine. So that is what I think actually hurts the clown.
Okay, that's interesting.
There's like a lot, like I could do, like when we do other movies, I could bring stuff to support that as well. But that is my main theory as to, and if you read the books, you'd probably understand it better. But that's my theory as to how this is able to hurt it, is that this is them utilizing these powers of shining.
I do love the verbiage that Pennywise uses before he gets the battery acid, quote unquote. He's like, I am eternal, child, the eater of worlds and of children, and you are next. Like, I love the way he just like goes so far to say it's like he's gonna like literally inhale these kids, like suck them down like a Thumans.
Oh my God.
Thing is, I wonder what he means by like the eater of worlds.
The eater of worlds thing, they definitely explain more in the book, but I don't think in the movie it's so much information.
Yeah,
I
because
think
he like fights a giant space turtle
Yeah.
or something.
It would be impossible to touch on it just in this TV series.
After it's sprayed in the face with the supposed battery acid, Bev hits in the head with the silver, but instead of dying, it runs into the sewer drain and then tries to take Bill with him, but he doesn't succeed. The group is able to save Bill. They don't know if it is dead or not. So when they get out of the sewer, they all swear to each other that if it isn't dead and that if it ever comes back, they will all come back to Derry to finish the job.
Yeah, I mean, like she shot him in the head and it cracked his head open. And, and the light shined out. They fucked it up, but it did kind of slip back into the sewer. So I don't even know why they were questioning it. There was no doubt it was still alive.
Exactly. I agree.
And I thought the way like they shot that part with like Bill's hand getting grabbed by it going into the sewer, I thought it was terrible.
What? It was like a talon. It was almost like a talon like thing that grabbed them.
Yeah, but it's like Bill like lunged into getting grabbed.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
I thought he reached out to drag him out.
It didn't look like Pennywise actually grabbed him. It looked like Bill lunged and then they shot the scene of him getting grabbed.
Oh no. Because he wanted to pull him out of the drain.
Oh, Bill wanted to pull it out.
Yes.
Oh,
they wanted to make sure he was dead.
Oh, so Bill was reaching for him.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Okay, I thought that Pennywise was holding on to him to bring him down to the drain with him.
No, he wanted to take him out to make sure he was dead.
Shit, Bill, you are a gangster.
Yeah,
you are like, oh my God, you are so brave for doing that. Like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he is tormenting their lives.
He is tormenting their lives. Bill was going into this mission being like, we die or it dies.
Dude, he did rip off his brother's arm.
Yeah, he did want revenge. He did want revenge, yeah.
God, if someone did that to my brother,
yeah, really,
I would be upset. They'd owe me money.
They owe you money for damages.
Now we cut back to Stanley, where his wife is headed upstairs to go to the bathroom. But when she goes in there, she realizes Stanley has committed suicide. He has slit his wrist. He has wrote it in blood. which if you were watching this back in 1990, that ends the first half, and we still have another hour and a half of this movie.
Potentially my third passion bump.
The
No.
fucking
No,
suicide.
listen. Because when the wife is walking up the stairs, she goes, "Dan, I'm gonna rub your back," and with a beer in a cup. I'm gonna rub your back
Potential passion bump.
Yeah, the dude is dead, man.
and your shoulders
Okay.
and something else.
I know. I see where you're going with that. Like, it's definitely sex talk, but it never gets to the point
Yeah, I
of it
know.
being
Yeah.
passion.
I know. I wrote potential, but I knew it wasn't gonna happen. But I was just doing it like.
It's definitely a potential passion bump if like they started and then it happened, but but they both have to be passionate for it to be the bump.
Which it
Yes.
wasn't.
Yes.
So now we are cutting to
Bill in a cab
Yes.
at the cemetery.
Yes. And he sees Georgie's grave, and then he looks over and he sees it digging multiple graves. Now, what I like about this scene and what Bill doesn't gather is that there's 6 graves. There's an actual hole with the 7th grave already covered,
Yeah.
And this
signifying that Stanley has died. But Bill
This is a
doesn't catch on
joke
to this.
too,
Yes.
by the way. This is a joke because Stanley was Jewish. They don't clarify this, but it was either a miss on the writers that they didn't put a Star of David on his grave, or it was a joke on it just being disrespectful to Stanley.
Like you said, they don't go into the
Mhm.
him being Jewish in this one. They do it very heavily, obviously, in the remake because they actually do his bar mitzvah in the remake.
They literally
Yeah.
mention it once, and I think it's a Richie joke.
Oh, they do mention it.
They do mention it. It's just
Okay.
a very brief.
Yeah, that was a thing that they were like, this is either it playing a joke on them and just being super disrespectful, or it was a miss on the writers.
Interesting.
Because he basically goes, he says, "Take your pick, Billy boy."
Yeah.
Except the one at the end.
Which obviously Bill doesn't correlate with
Yeah.
what had happened. So this is when, Bill starts to realize like everything is starting to flood back into his memory because now he's back in Derry.
He does see Pennywise here,
Yeah.
and he's got meth mouth.
Oh, when he does that quick little scary face. With
Yeah,
with
he
his
always
teeth.
has the sharp teeth, but in this scene, he legit has the meth mouth,
like he chewed on rocks, right?
like he chewed on rocks with meth.
Yes. So Bill finally meets with Mike. They catch up. Mike says he's arranged dinner for everyone tonight, but Mike shows Bill his old bike. Mike mentions it kind of like was calling to him. He found this bike at a bike shop, and he thinks it was calling to him to get the bike because a month before that, he had bought a bike repair kit for him and Bill to repair this bike. And he says, other than a few like tune-ups it needs, the bike is in perfect working condition.
Got the old Silverback, the old Schwinn.
It's like Mike says also, like there was a force driving us that summer, whether we created it or it was by fate. Something that it brought us together that summer.
Doesn't it, like when he touches the bike, doesn't he get like a flashback of him and Stanley? Like they're running.
Yes.
They're riding on the bike. They're riding away from something.
Exactly.
And that's the part of Stan's story that we haven't heard yet.
Yes, and we won't for a little bit. So then we cut to Richie, and as he's coming in, he sees R.I.P. Richie on the movie theater poster.
I love that.
I guess it's, what would you consider the movie theater?
A
Like
Paramount.
They
Yeah,
call it the Paramount
on the
Theater.
Paramount. And it just says R.I.P. Richie with his birth and death, which is today. Then he gets to the library, and he awaits for Mike because Mike has stepped out. And this is like the greatest collection of like scenes because he starts to see like balloons start to fall, and it starts like talking to Richie about these balloons, and these balloons just start exploding blood into all the patrons' faces.
Oh yeah, they're reading it, and they're completely unfazed too,
Yeah.
obviously, because they're just reading. Only the kids see the blood, but the blood just popping in everybody's face, completely unfazed. And then I think one even explodes all over his face, and
Mm-hmm.
then he goes to the front desk. But Pennywise, before he gets to say anything, Pennywise is like, tells him to get out before it's too dark. He's like, you're too old. You're all too old. Pennywise, he starts making, a lot of noise. He got like these noisemakers, and he's making it difficult for Richie to tell the lady at the front desk, that, I'll meet up with Mike later for dinner. I got to get cleaned up because I got blood all over me. And she's just like, dude, whatever.
Yeah, because like Richie is literally shouting at her because Pennywise is literally doing one of those noise things, and he's like, "Have you seen Prince Albert in a can? Let the poor guy out. Is your refrigerator running? Well, you better go catch it." He's just doing all these jokes while also like shouting.
And they're also better than Richie's jokes.
100%.
It's funny because I was just gonna say like it's like he's kind of like mocking Richie with like these corny jokes.
That's what he's doing.
It's basically what he's doing the whole time, just mocking him.
So we cut to Bill and Mike, and they're taking Silver out for a ride. And we get a nice little bike montage of like them riding the bike and them riding the bike as kids.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
cute little montage, but it makes no sense that like these 50-year-old men are riding on a Schwinn together.
It's like they go
They're
back
just-
and forth.
Yeah, I take it as they're just reminiscing their childhood since they haven't seen each other in like 30 years.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't see 50-year-old men getting on one bike. I just don't.
But it shows flashes of them as adults riding the bike and as kids riding the bike, like back and forth
No,
scenes.
I get why it's done. I don't believe that it would happen.
Oh no.
I'm saying personally, I don't see that happening. Like, I don't see my dad and my Uncle Jack getting on a Schwinn together.
No, but the only reason I believe it is because like they haven't seen each other in 30 years.
First of all, you don't even see Mike on the Schwinn in the past anyway.
They do show in the flashback. They show Mike ride over the. Or no, do they?
The seesaw?
Yeah, is it? It's Mike, right? Who rides over the seesaw?
Yes.
In the past?
Yeah.
No, present.
It's a.
Oh, actually, both.
It's both, right?
Both.
Yeah, but it's at that scene that they do it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. I think it's just like something that was thrown in there.
Probably.
I could see that.
They go to attach bicycle cards on the bike. Bicycle cards, bike. Ha ha ha. But its face is on the cards.
Pennywise's face is on the back of the bicycle cards.
And now we cut to Ben in a cab, and he tells the guy to pull over on Bully Bridge. And
Bully Bridge.
I'm calling it Bully Bridge because when Ben goes out of the cab and goes back down to the Barrens, once again, a fat boy is being bullied by bullies.
Yep.
So this is Bully Bridge. If
Hey.
you're fat, do not go near this bridge.
And I love how Ben quickly sees an image of himself being chased by Henry Bowers in the group.
Mhm.
And then, and then he sees the normal kid that was there.
Yeah.
I have a please explain to me for this.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
the kid falls down. It looks like he hurts his knee really bad. Ben takes a handkerchief and just dips it some of the water there, taps it on the wound, ties the handkerchief around his knee, and the kid's like, "I'm good. I'm just gonna go walk away now. Like my knee's not hurt anymore."
So yeah, no, like even if it was a scrape and not like just like any kind of like a tear or anything like that, why would you dump it in that marsh water? Like and clean your wound with the marsh water.
It's
It has,
it's
magical
the
healing
80s.
Whatever.
80s or not. It's probably the 90s, actually. It's 30 years.
It is the 90s.
Yeah,
now.
it would technically, present day would be 90s. Actually, no, present day would be technically 80s if the movie takes place in the 50s when they're kids.
No, I think
Well,
it takes
it
place
was-
in the 60s.
it was the-
Oh, it does take place
it
in
was
the 60s when they're kids?
It's
Okay.
It was the summer of 1958.
Okay, so 30 years later, this would be 88, 1988.
88.
Isn't it 90 though? Because doesn't Richie Tozier's thing say 1950 to
1990
1990?
that he dies at the Paramount Theater when he messes with
Okay,
him.
so it's been 32 years since they've seen each other.
32 years.
Stupid movie. Okay, Ben then sees a skeleton by the sewer again, but this time it's a standing skeleton.
On the marsh.
Exactly. That happens. He goes back into the cab. He sees it hitchhiking as the cab drives away.
It's creepy.
It is.
Great scene,
on the
though.
side of the road. He's just like waving, and I think is there 6 balloons or 7?
I believe it's 6.
6, right? I don't know. Like,
It's constantly alluding to that Stanley is dead already.
yeah, and then like one appears in the back seat of the car with Ben, and it just pops right next to him.
And it says "Turn back now" on it.
Exactly.
yeah, that's true.
So now we cut to Eddie, and Eddie has a flashback where this is where we learn that he doesn't actually have asthma. Like the pharmacist tells him, this is just a placebo, Eddie.
I got to recast for the pharmacist, Bryan Cranston.
Mr. Keene.
Fucking book it.
I like it. I could buy that. Then we cut to the present where he goes back to that pharmacy. I guess it's the pharmacist's grandson, right? Who now runs the pharmacy.
Because Mr. Keene asked for like a cigarette not a cigar while he's sitting in the
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Because so Mr. Keene is in the back completely with like either dementia or Alzheimer's.
He wants cigars and he wants a lot of licorice.
Yes.
Licorice, yes.
Then he gets kind of like possessed by it, and he grabs Eddie, and he basically tells him like he's gonna die if he stays here, right?
Get out of town, girly boy.
So Eddie just freaks out and he leaves. He's
He's
out.
I'd be pretty freaked out too, especially recalling the time that his mother's just been giving him placebo inhaler juice.
Yeah, which he is still taken to this day, knowing it's a placebo. So now we cut to Bev, and she goes to her old home, and she sees the name Marsh on the doorbell. So she rings it. But then an old woman answers, and she looks at the doorbell and realizes it's Kirsch. Common mistake, happens to anyone. Bev is invited in for tea. This old woman loves her tea.
Oh yeah, she does. I think Beverly, she goes to the bathroom, right? After she's done with that, she's trying to recall her previous trauma, and she's having tea with Mrs. Kirsch. Like Shane said, she's sucking down her tea so loudly and with so much ferocity that thirsty kids in Africa are pissed off. She opens her mouth, and it looks like she was doing meth in the back of an Idaho Wendy's.
Yeah.
So Yeah. The old lady then turns into a zombie dad.
She does turn into zombie dad.
But it's like Bev looks into her cup and sees like a cup of blood.
She drops it.
She drops it and it shatters.
Yes, and then when she looks up, it's zombie dad. I'll worry a lot. And now Bev sees, like, once she runs out of the house, she sees that the whole house is actually boarded up. It's just it fucking with her.
One of his biggest mind fucks of the whole movie.
Considering she went into a boarded up house because the door itself is boarded up.
She literally had a whole experience with this clown in a boarded up house that was abandoned. And she looked at the house like it looked exactly like her childhood home.
Yeah, literally.
Like no changes whatsoever. I thought that shit was extremely creepy.
Yeah,
it
it's very well done. Now we'll get to a scene which I'll glance over quickly because the movie glanced over it quickly. We cut to Bill's wife talking to a man that Bill will never work in movies again.
Greco.
Bill's wife is going to go after Bill, and he says, well, he basically threatens her with her career if she goes.
Oh, totally.
But,
of course.
But she doesn't care and goes.
He actually says it could turn violent. Like, those are actually words that came out of her mouth. Like, this guy's sick.
He kind of looks like he has a thing for Audra, too, because he's like, this could be like the thing that brings a couple together or tears them apart.
Yeah.
Question mark.
This guy is just, he's in full sicko mode.
Wait till he hears her say hello.
So now we cut to the big group dinner, and it's at some kind of a Asian restaurant.
It's actually called Chop Suey.
Clever, very clever. So Ben, Mike, Eddie, they're there. They hug it out. Richie shows up, gets a little nervous, runs into the bathroom, but he mans up and goes out to the group.
And he does a couple of jokes. I mean, they didn't land with us, but they landed with them.
Beep, beep, Richie.
Pours himself a drink because he loves to drink. They all do, kind of, in a way, especially him and Ben Hanscom. Bev walks in and she's like, look at these good looking old men, and then passes out
immediately.
Yes. Eddie catches her.
Yes. But she wakes up and she makes out with a married Bill, which is my passion bump for the movie.
Totally 100% a passion bump here.
Well, I mean, she does actually kiss Richie too.
She does.
She kisses him on like
no.
the cheek.
Ooh.
No, she kisses him on the mouth.
She pecks him on the lip.
But does she really?
But her and Bill's kiss, it works in two ways. One, for my passion bump, and two, because it's kind of like that built-up childhood love she had for Bill because she thought he wrote the poem.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter that he's married. She gets that kiss.
She's like hugging everybody, and then she just goes up and gives this guy like the sucking of a lifetime, and he's into it. He's sucking back. And the only reason I know this is going to be a passion bump, I can't fight against it. My only argument was you see the rat tail, and that is boner poison. Totally anti-passion.
Oh my god.
It is bad. That all happens, like we said. They talk about it. They basically say, Mike, you have to help us like remember what's happening here. And this is when the memories start to rush back to Eddie. Doesn't he cry a little bit?
Well, what happens is like Richie says, I got a piece of it myself before, and he thinks it's probably the water. Bev says it's probably the sewer. And then Eddie like looks up. He remembers the scene of him spraying the inhaler, saying this is battery acid, you slime. Yeah. And he starts to hyperventilate a little bit as the group like comes together. And they're like, Eddie, are you okay? You okay? Just calm down. It's okay. Eddie says like, I'm starting to remember who Pennywise is now. He's this guy in a clown suit, 75 feet tall, has razor sharp teeth, and he starts to like cry a little bit.
Yeah, and Bill wants Mike to fill them in on everything, but Richie wants to have fun first. He starts pouring some drinks, and then
Richie's really trying to avoid the topic right now.
No, he is, and it's time for dinner. They need to get fed.
They realize Stan isn't here as well, and they question whether he's going to show up or not.
Mike's like, he'll show up. Let's just have some dinner.
The group shoot the shit, and this is when you learn Henry Bowers was found in the sewer. He'd admitted to doing all of the childhood murders back then, 32 years ago. And now he has been in Juniper Hills Psychiatric Clinic ever since. And this is when we cut to that, and we see its face in the moon talking to Henry Bowers.
That is true. Ask him if he wants another chance to chase those brats. He's almost telling him, he's like, you got to go back to Derry and kill them all.
Kill them all.
And I love
kill
this.
Them all. Kill them all.
Kill them all.
So we get back to the table, and Richie wants to just go, but the others say don't. They want him to stay.
He's like, I'm catching a plane. They're like, no, you're not. And then he's like, well, maybe Richie is right. But Bill also is like, we haven't even like discussed it yet.
But first they open up their fortune cookies, and inside is bugs, birds, eyes, and crabs and blood.
I think the creepiest one out of all those openings was the little bird that was in front of Mike with no eyes.
Stillborn chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That was the creepiest one out of all of them.
I love this scene too. The little like host waitress comes in.
The waitress, yeah.
All right, and he's like, our friend just had an asthma attack. As there's still like the spider one crawling on the table, and Richie's just like, yeah, I'm not sleepy anymore, and they all leave.
Yeah. Now they head into Mike's library, and blood is everywhere. And now, of course, you get that flashback of Bev remembering to clean up the bathroom
because she's still like wiping the blood off her hands. Like it's not even going anywhere. She's like wiping for no reason, and it's like the blood is not leaving her hands whatsoever.
This is where I feel so bad because she cleans the whole sink, and as soon as she turns her back, the blood shoots back up, and it's like, son of a bitch.
Gotta clean the sink again.
I feel so bad for her.
That must be so traumatizing. Like imagine if her dad comes out of the bathroom every day and he's like blood all over his face.
I know. He just keeps wiping it all over himself.
Weird.
So she gets her friends to come, and they actually all see the blood. So now she's like, okay, I'm not crazy. You guys see it too. They all clean the sink as a group. This is when we cut back to the library, and Mike informs the group that Stanley is dead. He has cut his wrists in the bathtub.
Tough scene.
It is, because the group is now dealing with the big loss of the Losers Club. And then Bill remembers that Stanley was the last one to see it that summer. And this is when we have the flashback that you alluded to.
In the park, he's bird watching.
Yes.
And he basically, in the distance, he hears his name being called. He thinks somebody from the house is calling for him because Stan is very like, he thinks that if something happens, there has to be a rational reason why this is happening. So he thinks that somebody's actually calling his name from the house because there's a rational reason why somebody's calling out his name, because they probably want to talk to him.
I mean, that is fair.
It was a point where he hasn't seen it yet, and he just thinks it's empirically impossible for something bad to happen.
He keeps saying that too. He keeps alluding to how it's empirically impossible.
Yeah.
But to his point, I mean, it's hard to believe that a clown is out just killing kids.
Exactly.
Which is, believable for him not to
But
believe
it's like, how do you just walk into somebody's house that you don't even know?
The door is wide open.
The door is wide open.
Yeah. This is when he sees the mummy come down the stairs, and his only defense is to recite all the bird names out of his book, and it works.
I didn't get this at all.
So
brown thrush.
What I took it as, since the clown's feeding off of fear, he's trying to just block that fear out by just reciting these bird names. It's trying to get the fear out of his head so that the thing won't.
No, I got you. Like moonbeams, monarch butterflies, narwhals, and then you're really gonna just cut that deadlight piece of shit out of the way.
Well, no. I'm saying it's just trying to get rid of his fear. Like he's just focusing on that instead of his fear to hope that
he's blocking it out of his mind.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Basically, saying birds' names makes him have no fear in his head whatsoever because
it's a comfort. It's a comfort.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that was. I thought you meant like he was using it actually to
fight him.
To fight him.
Oh no.
But he does recede, so that doesn't make sense. Like he's receding back up the stairs once he starts quoting Brown Thrush.
Yes,
because I took it as if Dan has no fear, it has nothing to feed off of.
Yes.
Well, you got the herring and the Australian winkledink bird.
Great birds, all great birds.
And he says a Baltimore Oriole, something like that.
So when we cut back, the group mentions that when Stan saw the clown, he saw kind of through the clown and he saw its deadlights. That's where they first used the term deadlights. And he's like, I looked into its deadlights and I want it to be there.
That's a cool line.
It is a cool line.
So they open the mini fridge in the library, like all libraries have, and out come balloons. So this is the greatest part because Stanley's head is a better comedian than Richie ever was in the entire movie. Because Stanley's head is on fire with these jokes.
Again, oh my God, he's killing it.
In all the sore spots, every one of those characters.
He tells Mike, you're too pathetic to never leave this town.
I love Eddie's. Hey, Eddie, how's your sex life? What's your sex life?
That's so funny.
So yeah, he just berates them and they all then leave the library. They just get out of there.
Oh yeah. I mean, they got shamed.
I mean, glass starts breaking, books start coming off the shelves, just flying off the shelves. It starts to actually rain in the library.
I mean, I would leave the library too if one of my dead best friends' severed heads was just hitting me hard, bringing up dirt from the past.
So now we cut back to Henry Bowers, who is talking to dead Belch under the bed. They discuss a plan of escape. They discuss how to kill the Losers Club, and Belch gives Henry his trusty fat boy pocket knife. He's going to leave. Basically, it had told him he'll get him out of there, and he does, because when Henry goes up to the security guard,
Kuntz.
a dog is in a clown suit and attacks the guard.
What kind of dog is that?
I don't know, but actually, this scene scared me, man.
See, this is the thing. It's a scary scene, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
So if it's not supposed to be seen by adults, how does the security guy see it?
See, I think that it can make himself be seen by whoever he wants.
Yeah.
He can like turn it on and off. Like he's like, so like say he's with the group and there's adults around the group of kids. He can literally just make it so that the kids see him, not the adults. He can turn it on and off and choose when to be seen by adults, when not to be seen by adults.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
you don't know who in this town it also used to terrorize. So maybe like prior, like 30 years before, how I don't remember how long he sleeps for.
30 years. About 30 years.
Yeah, about 30 years. So maybe like that security guard was one of the kids that he used to terrorize.
That would make sense.
That makes
All right.
sense.
So after that scene, we cut to Bev recounting a time that Henry Bowers and the two bullies were basically just holding her down, feeling up her hair. Very typical bully stuff in the 60s. And Bev mentions how an old man watched this happen, but did nothing to help the situation.
Yeah, dude, the old guy just like looks over in their direction. He's like, shoulda nah.
And just leaves. Mike shows the latest crime scene, and the picture that he found there was that of Georgie's.
Like he gives them all newspapers, right?
Yes, and that's how like he shows the picture of Georgie.
This is like a technique to jog their memory back.
Exactly.
Oh, that old man you were talking about, his name is Mr. Ross.
Yeah, that's not important.
I know.
So this is where we cut to a scene that Jen doesn't remember exists. We cut to Bill's wife getting to a gas station. And at this gas station, she's basically asking, is the Barons over here? Am I going in the right direction? Her gas attendant turns into it, and she sees the deadlights.
And she's like sucked in.
Yeah, she's sucked into the deadlight.
It's like, I don't want to say it sucks your soul, but like it sucks her spirit.
Yeah.
Sucks her spirit right out.
That's the best way to put it. We cut back to now the group where Ben is telling a story. He's getting his shoulders rubbed by Bev.
No, he's rubbing Bev's shoulders.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm used to Bev rubbing other people's shoulders. So Ben is telling the story.
She's how she rubbed.
She's probably rubbing a lot more things than just the shoulders.
Holy shit.
Oh my.
Okay. So we'll just mention Stephen King is a crazy person when he wrote this book, on a lot of cocaine when he wrote this book.
He very much regrets this.
Yes, he wrote a very questionable scene into it. We're not going to get into that scene. Preferenced why we were making these Bev jokes.
Bev tells him a story, right, where she's once again cleaning up the blood, and it ensues another flashback
Back to her
house
bathroom.
with the squirting blood, and everyone saw that it was there, and they helped her clean it up. She mentioned that it was that day particularly that made her fall in love with the entire group.
Yeah.
Yes. So now Bev is kind of cold, so she needs a shawl. And if there's one thing I know about shawls, it's that Brian loves a good shawl. So they decide to stick together because it, can get them when they're alone. So Ben, Mike, and Eddie go upstairs to get this shawl. As soon as they get upstairs, they split up anyway. So what the fuck was the point?
Right.
And then Mike is getting violently attacked by Henry Bowers, and no one hears this happening.
No, and he gets stabbed in the side, right?
Like by the ribs, I believe.
Yeah, and that's gonna hurt because it's sharp and it's gonna hurt. And then Ben hands Bev her jacket because she's just cold and recites the poem, "Your hair is winter fire, January ember." I mean, he completes it. My heart burns there too.
And this is my second passion bump.
Oh my
personal.
God, Shane, here, passion bump.
Yes, because Ben and Bev have their first kiss, but it's not Bev. Ben is making out with It the Clown.
And you can tell it's not like the old lady Mrs. Kirsch was drinking the tea abnormally fast.
Yes.
And it's like they're making out like abnormally fast, like she was drinking the tea. It's like this is like a little weird here.
So you're saying Tim Curry has a wild mouth?
He's got a hot mouth.
He's mouthy for sure.
Okay.
Kissing.
I'll tell you, she looks real good in clown pants.
Yeah,
she does. While all this is going on, Ben making out with It, Henry is still killing Mike in the other room until Eddie finally hears this and goes to stop this. And now this is my question. How does Henry get stabbed in the chest in this scene?
Mike stabs him with his own knife.
So Mike kind of flips it out and stabs.
Thing is, they don't really show it.
Yeah, it kind of just like ends up in his chest.
Yeah.
It's very quick.
That could be a please explain to me.
I think it's another knife.
Is it another
A
knife?
second knife?
I think it's a second knife.
I think it's the same knife.
Nah, because I think he's killing them with the knife that Belch gave them, the one he used to cut Fat Boys.
You think the one he took it out of his side and stabbed them with it?
I
Well, no,
mean,
remember-
I'm not saying
remember-
that's logical, but I
It's
am
not.
saying I think that's what happened.
Well, remember, because Henry was on top of him, like trying to push the knife down onto Mike. Eddie and Ben were pulling Henry off. I think Mike just flipped the script. He changed the whole narrative and just turned the knife on him.
We're not changing fucking narratives today. No one's changing a goddamn narrative.
No, but we do have to move this narrative along.
They bring Mike to the hospital.
Yes.
Bill goes to visit Mike. Mike gives Bill the silver because he said he went into the sewer and found it. The group decides not to report this to the police, so they just leave Henry Bauer's body in their hotel room.
Literally.
They check out with their real names. So dead body under your name at the hotel. Okay. Half the group wants to leave. Half the group wants to stay. But they all decide to stay because Bill hears Moonlight Sonata or whatever the song was by Beethoven.
For Elise.
So once Bill hears that song, which Dale alluded to earlier in the review, that's the song his mother was playing. So now Bill knows this is a sign. They all have to stay. They all have to fight it. Bev reveals she still has her slingshot.
10 for 10.
Yes.
She can really sling it.
This is when Bill gives the silver that Mike had given him to her, and now they are ready to use this to it, and they are ready to fight it.
Before they leave, though, something funny actually does happen. Rich says, "Come on, guys, what are you gonna do now? Sing Kumbaya?"
Yeah, because he's a downer. He's like, losers fight it, losers die.
He really doesn't want to do this.
This is when Richie does get some good lines, because like Richie says he still smells death, and he says, so we brought a silver and a slingshot. You know, we're older now. Anyone want to bring a fucking machine gun?
Yeah, I mean,
He's got a point.
You're going toe to toe with fucking deadlights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're fucking using like slingshots.
So they go into the sewer. Bill finds his wife's purse. So Bill instantly breaks the pack and goes running and shouting through the sewer.
This is
Stupid.
asinine. They already know. He already previously has already seen Georgie down there and knows. Like, I don't understand why he just kind of like turns
Such
the
a
bit.
stupid move.
He trips, and then that's when he sees Georgie again. The boat comes floating towards him, and this is when like the group comes and they're like, you know, this isn't actually Georgie. This is it. This isn't Georgie. And what I like about the scene is Georgie has one arm.
Yeah, Georgie's there.
True.
He's blaming him. He's like, it's all your fault, Bill. You know, you sent me out and it killed me, blaming him for the night that he died.
It's really hitting home.
It's tough. And yeah, obviously the clown and it, however you want to refer to this, is obviously hitting him in the sore spot.
Yes. It brings up again that like he fights it here by saying, I know it's not real. I know you're not Georgie. And it disappears.
And then Bill sort of challenges it and says, "Come fight us. Come out here. We're here to fight you." It shows himself in the ceiling,
Hologram.
Yeah.
like a hologram type thing.
Hologram
and
it.
You guys leave. This is your last chance. Get out of Derry, or I'll kill you all. He's like trying to scare them to not press on any farther than where they are. Because this is the farthest they've ever come, was this room. It's the same room where they thought they killed it.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like, if you stay, you will lose your minds in my deadlights like all the others. And then he like laughs and then he disappears.
Bro, that laugh was probably his best laugh of the movie.
And Richie's still Debbie Downer. He's like, we cannot fight it. It's like fighting smoke.
Yeah.
And he don't want that smoke.
He don't want that smoke.
You don't want that smoke.
But they do decide to fight it by floating the boat, and they follow the boat, and the boat leads them to Tiny Door.
Yeah, this like tiny wooden door that's like encased in bones.
It looks like a door where like the leprechaun would live.
Yes, 100%. Before they could
Yes.
go into this room, though, Eddie has to admit he's never been with anyone. He is still a virgin. He can never sleep with someone that he didn't love.
And he only loved the group.
Yes,
That's so sad.
it is. It's a sad story for Eddie. It's mainly all of his mom's fault. His mom's fault,
100% gets the blame for this.
without a
Oh,
doubt.
1000%. She's
And
crazy.
him too. I can't let him slide, bro. He should have left. Like,
Yeah.
but you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the mom is obviously a
That
garbage
she,
person.
yeah,
But
she just had like this hold on him that he didn't want to leave, probably because he didn't want to disappoint her.
So
well, also,
let's-
like she was saying he was sick his entire life. Like she probably like imagine growing up with your mom being like, oh, it like pulling you out of school and being like, oh, you're sick, constantly need medicine. Because the asthma wasn't the only thing. She probably made him get sick in other ways.
yeah, without
Yeah,
doubt.
of course.
probably stunted his growth.
So now let's ruin the movie. We go through the tiny door. We see a bunch of webs. We see bodies in the webs. Bill sees that his wife is in one of these webs.
Audra?
Audra.
Did you just say
No, I said his wife.
Oh,
Oh, did I say aw?
It kind of sounds like you said it. Aw.
that's what I thought you said. I'm like, her name's Audra.
That's all now. So this is where you find out it is a giant spider.
Yeah, a Ray Harryhausen spider.
How big would you say the spider is?
I'm gonna say it's about 2 kilo.
That's specific.
I feel like that's more of a drug
I say like the
reference.
size of like a van, maybe a little
think it's
bigger.
I think it's the
looks
size
bigger.
of a giant space turtle.
It looks like a spider crab though, because doesn't it have like does it grip? I don't know.
Yeah, it's got like those claws of a crab, but like the legs of a spider.
So we're calling it crab spider.
crab
Yeah.
spider.
Okay.
Bill kind of like walks slowly towards it.
Crabby.
But Bev, without hesitation, takes out her David slingshot and, like she's striking Goliath, misses very far over the spider's head.
Yes, but she does have a second shot. She drills it in the head and it bounces off. And little does she know, spiders are not affected by silver. So they now have a problem because Bill is being affected by these deadlights now. Richie runs in to help and is affected by the deadlights.
Straight engulfed.
And then Ben, after seeing both of these people be affected by the deadlights, runs in and gets affected by the deadlights.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
while this is all happening and all these guys are running like to the slaughter because they're so stupid, Bev is like kind of like walking up top of the cave to retrieve the silver pieces.
Yes.
Because she's gonna keep firing off like
Yeah.
any sniper would.
Eddie, though, runs up there, not affected by the deadlights because he's in full Eddie mode. And he pulls up his inhaler, does the it's battery acid, you slime. This time, little did he know, battery acid does not affect spiders. And it picks him up and kind of like crushes his body, I guess.
I would say like it's squeezing him and like crushing his ribs.
And this is the point where I'm going to say he deserved to die here.
absolutely,
And
100%.
His cringy ass line before he dies, he's like, I believe in Santa Claus. I
the
believe
heck?
in the Easter Bunny. I believe in the Tooth Fairy, but I don't believe in you. And then he literally gets
He
munched.
straight up says, "This is battery acid. Now you disappear."
Yeah. Bev now has the silver. And you see like this, like,
Six pack.
yes.
Like a six pack,
You
right?
you see a 6-pack of light coming from its abdomen, and she shoots it into the light, and it fucking there's like sparks and fire blowing up out of it. It drops Eddie, and the gang like they go to Eddie first, and Eddie sadly dies like in their arms.
No, that's a dead asshole right there.
It's been working out. You know, he's crushing Eddie's ribs. He has a six pack.
Yeah. All right. So we got dead Eddie, and the gang's like, let's finish this once and for all. They, I fucking love this.
They go fucking River City Ransom on the fucking abs.
They straight bull rush
They
him.
bull rush the spider, push it over, and just literally start jabbing it and punching and kicking it. And they fucking rip out its heart like it's Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom.
And they hoist
And
it
they-
over their head like a fucking trophy.
But you know
Well
what's
said.
funny? When the spider first comes out of the cave, when they first see it, it looks way bigger than when they go and approach him and try to bull rush him. It's like, oh, what did he change size like just like that?
After the spider is dead, Bill runs and grabs his comatose wife. She is just like completely unresponsive here.
She's a shell.
Now we cut to Mike, like I guess the hospital, and he's writing down his recollections of what happened because they have no physical memory of the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to write it down before he actually completely forgot.
And now we see everyone. Richie is in a movie with another comedian who also isn't funny. Ben and Bev get married. They get pregnant, all in the matter of 4 weeks.
It's so true.
Yeah.
He gets married in a week and puts a baby in her at the end of the month.
Real quick.
They are like quick. So then Bill and his wife are together. His wife is still in a coma. So Bill has this bright idea to put her on his bike and ride her down the San Francisco hill, even though it's clearly Derry. It just kind of looks like San Francisco at this point.
It is hilly.
And it works, and she wakes up.
He basically, the whole ride down there, he's like, beat it, Bev. Beat it. Come on. You can beat this. You can do it. Beat it. Beat it. Beat it.
He is flying at breakneck speed on the silver Schwinn. There was no chance
Oh,
he was
yeah.
staying comatose.
Oh, yeah. And like, you know, cars are coming from both sides of the street and they have to just stop so they won't hit him.
He stopped dead in the middle of a four-way intersection.
So
No better place to stop.
Exactly. So she wakes up. They share a very passionate kiss, and the
Passion
movie
bump.
ends.
We're going to give this a passion. Mate,
Are we ending the movie on a passion bump?
we've given this movie way
Too many passion
That's
bumps.
such a
Yeah,
fact.
I'm going to say we're not going to end it on a passion bump.
Okay.
Eh.
But we are going to say the movie is over.
You see one of the end credits start to come on, and then you hear Pennywise laugh one last time.
I like that. The 3 hour and 7 minute 1990 epic is over. Over 1,000 pages of literature. The Stephen King classic, Maine's most prized possession.
I'm tired just talking about it. I was even tired watching it, but it's a good movie.
It
I
is a
love
good
this movie.
I love this movie.
So let's go right into our reviews, or we will be here for another 3 days.
Brian, what'd you think?
You want me to go first? Shane usually goes first, but I'll go first this
yeah,
time.
I mean,
I'm going to go first because I
No,
don't like
fuck
the
you
first
both.
protocol.
I'm going
Shane, go
first.
Yeah, Dale, you don't run this show. Who do you think you are? So I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10.
No, you're not.
Oh, so you're saying I'm not?
You're just not going to do it.
What am I going to give it then?
8.
No. Okay, so this movie is a 7 out of 10. Tim Curry is 6 of the 10 points because he is so good as the clown. He's both creepy and funny, which is what I want from my clown. Creepy and funny. His jokes are better than anything Richie tells throughout the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
But now going into actually like the movie itself, the story is very interesting when they are kids. Is when they are adults, it both starts to get weaker, and the 3 hours really starts to hit you at that point in time. It feels like a very long 3 hours at that point.
I don't want to cut into your review, but I think it's important to keep it into the context that this was 2 separate hour-and-a-half specials. It
Yeah.
was never really originally designed for 3 hours.
Yeah, that is true. But I think even with that broken up, like I feel like I would have enjoyed the first part greatly and then actually hated the second part.
Yeah, it's kind of like intact with the new movies because the first one was great and the second one, like, why the fuck?
Exactly. Yeah, completely agree. So like Brian said earlier, some of the characters of the side characters, like the bullies, the dads, I'll worry a lot. Like they're so kind of over the top and Stephen King-y.
Yeah.
It's like it's too much, and that also hurts the movie. But overall, I enjoy it. It's a good movie. I would definitely recommend people to watch it. I would just recommend to watch it in 2 sittings. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll go. It's going to be pretty quick because Shane hit on like almost all of my points. And I discussed my criticisms earlier, so I don't really need to recite them because those are my only criticisms. I actually really like this movie. I think it's got a really good story, very gripping story. Like growing up with like a lot of close friends, you can kind of like feel like the love these guys have. It's pretty cool how like one summer of like almost torment, but like they had so much fun fighting the torment together. That unification kind of helped pave the way into like their future relationships as well when they come back to the town and they recall all their memories. A couple of things just to be nitpicky, I guess. I don't think one summer would give you that much enjoyment, but it does for them. So that's great. Like I said, the clown fucking kills it. Amazing work by Tim Curry. I feel like you cannot get better casting. He's like you said, Jen, he's in the movie for such a limited amount of time, but they space it out and he does so well. His screen presence and the limited time that they give him, he just fucking kills the role. I mean, he's great. He looks like a serial killing clown. Like there's no doubt. He scared me as a kid. Like I said, I never wanted to walk by a sewer ever again. So it's very scary for me. The story was really good. Characters were okay. Obviously, there's some over exaggerations on some of the characters that were like kind of like why, but you
of
kind
course.
of makes some sense a little bit with the whole idea that the adults don't get what's going on. So I'm actually going to give this an 8 out of 10.
All right, to Jen.
I'm actually going to give this an 8 out of 10. I love this movie. I think this is the only movie on the podcast, other than maybe Insidious, that I went back and watched a second time before this review. Because I typically don't do that with a lot of our movies. I'm like one and done. I never have to look at it again, especially because we just finished Cult Month. So I never wanted to watch this again. No offense, guys. But I love this movie. I don't remember if it was put together as a movie by the time I started watching it, because I do remember seeing this in parts. Like I never watched the whole movie consecutively when it was on TV. So I feel like maybe they put it in parts, but you can really see like where it would cut out and go to commercial. I just love this movie. All the critiques are correct, but it's still like held up for me. I saw this movie super early as a child. Don't tell my mom. Mom, if you're listening to this, I know you're not, but sorry. Yeah, love it. 8 out of 10. It's borderline a 9 for me. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I want to go to Derry, Maine.
Is that a real place?
No,
I'm not sure.
It's not? I thought it was.
I'll look it up while Dale gives his review and I'll let you know. Because if we are, we're going there.
All right, Dale, you are up. Your review.
So I'm going to give this movie one of my favorite movies ever, actually. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I love the acting from Tim Curry here as Pennywise. He did an excellent job. He absolutely killed it. I love the whole backstories, going into these flashbacks of all these characters, learning about them, learning how they suffered, how they became friends, bonded, built a structure together. Absolutely amazing storyline. And I just love how this movie was made, and it's just enjoyable for me.
I'm with you, brother. It was definitely an entertaining movie for sure. Even for 3 hours, I was gripped. There are times where I think you feel the length, especially when they're adults, but still the story is gripping.
Because like when I watch a movie, I put myself in the character's shoes I try to see myself if I was in that situation and how I would feel. This would have really hit home, like the way these kids were being tormented.
No, for sure. It hit home for me because when Tom brought out the belt, it hit me home because of how I was hit with a belt. So I was like, awesome. Both of us, just total bros, just getting rocked by belts.
I thought the acting was really good. Just to add to my review, one last thing. I love what it did to actually get into these kids' minds and what he actually did to try to make them build fear into themselves. And yeah, so I'm going to say 9 out of 10.
All right.
Awesome.
It was a fictional town that he's actually used in a number of his novels, novellas, and short stories. So it's a reoccurring town for him. But the actual place Derry, Maine is based on is Bangor, Maine. Bangor.
I think it's one of the biggest cities in Maine. It's like a bustling city. Question real quick before we do our Necronomicon bit. Better or worse than the remake?
Better.
This movie
you have to count both parts of the remake.
That's why it's better.
This movie is, I believe, 100% better than the remake.
I think we're all going to agree here. I don't know. Jen, what do you think?
I really liked the remake, but this movie sticks more in my head for the fact that I just saw it at such a young age and I have so much nostalgia towards it. So that, like, I'm sure if someone in like the next generation watched both, they might enjoy the new It just based on cultural context and like what horror movies are now. But I like the original so much more.
And I'm not saying the remake was a bad movie at all. It was pretty good, honestly.
The first part is literally like 8, 9 out of 10. It's the second part, which is
the second part was but the first part definitely did a great job. But there's just the overall, like from start to finish, this movie that we reviewed, just 100% better.
I agree. Because the second part, you're basically just watching the first part twice.
This is a new segment, and this is your first time on, Dale, so I don't expect you to know this, but this is the part where we decide which deceased character should be added into our Necronomicon, our Book of the Dead, that we may and probably will never choose someone to reanimate in the future, but it gives them hope. So it can be someone whose death was a really cool death. It could be someone who did a lot for the storyline. All the above, could even be your favorite character. We can do honorable mentions, but it has to be a person who has died. Have at it. Who are our recommendations?
I definitely fucking have mine.
I have mine too, for sure.
Mine is Henry Bowers.
Okay. Not
That's
bad.
a good one.
My second one would be Stanley.
Mine is Belch.
Belch.
The one who gets ripped in the pipe like an accordion.
Oh, that's a good one.
Who do you guys got?
Jen, who you got?
I was going to like think of all your options and then pick mine.
Right, so hold on.
Belch is a good one, though. I forgot about him. I like that death.
All right. What do you got, Dale?
It's got to be either Henry Bowers or... I'm probably going to stay with Henry Bowers.
All right, the Necronomicoin.
All right, Necronomicoin.
We need a Necronomicoin.
I actually don't have a real coin on me this time.
You could potentially put Eddie too, because
Henry Bowers will be heads and Belch will be tails.
The Necronomicoin never lies.
It has been heads every time. It is officially Henry Bowers.
Henry Bowers.
Yeah, that's fair, and it doesn't like you. I have a question. Do you think Belch actually really dies there too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think he looked into the deadlights and it immediately took him away.
Just
and
swallowed
then
him
it was
whole.
just like, this body is mine now.
I personally believe that the kids that were like hanging out with Henry were just hanging out with him to be cool, and they weren't really serious about like killing the kids and all that stuff.
They were serious about being bullies, not about killing.
But not about killing.
They were fine until they were just like mess him up or mess him around a little bit. But when he started picking out the pocket knife, that just hit different.
Yeah.
Wait,
All
so
right.
who was it again?
Henry Bowers.
Henry Bowers.
Okay.
He's in it.
adding it.
It's well deserved.
And
Guy's a
Shane,
piece of
have
shit.
you prepared a eulogy for Mr.
Yes.
Bowers?
Henry Bowers, you may be the worst person we have ever put into our Necronomicon.
Debatable.
You were a serial killer in the making at the age of 14. You threatened to carve your name into a fat boy. You were just an all-around awful, awful person. But you were damn funny. And for that, we are putting you in our Necronomicon.
Well said. All right.
Very well said.
All right. With that said, Dale, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
It was an awesome time, guys. I had a great time. I would love to come back.
Yeah, we'll have you back soon, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for your support for the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. So with that said, we will now let you guys know that our next review is It Follows. So It follows it.
You've been sitting on that one literally all fucking day.
Oh yeah, I really have though.
Shane coming in with the dad jokes, which is appropriate because he has a daughter.
All too appropriate.
So, with that said, we are the final podcast signing off, and we will see you next week. In most likely Detroit.
Sure.
All right, Detroit. So if you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter at The Final Pod Ever. Follow us on Instagram at The Final Podcast. And if you haven't, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple. It really, really helps Apple, push out our content and recommend us to other people to listen to.
There was an orgy in the book.